Chapter 222. 4 days later, Chu Ting's alchemy room once again emitted a pill fragrance. Li Maolin and Li Xiuzhu once again came to the alchemy room and waited for Chu Ting and Lu Ping to come out. The protective array formation outside Chu Ting's alchemy room glowed brilliantly and split open at the same time. Chu Ting's graceful figure slowly walked out amidst the overflowing pill fragrance. Li Xiuzhu quickly stepped forward and asked in a low voice. The two women chatted and laughed as they walked towards Li Maolin. At this moment, the alchemy room on the other side also slowly opened. Lu Ping, dressed in blue robes, walked out with a calm expression. He reached out and brushed his robes, as if he had meditated for a long time. Chu Ting stepped forward and handed a jade crystal bottle to Li Maolin. She said, "Niece has only refined 3 7-step marked pills. Refining 2 7-step marked pills on the second try is already Niece's limit." Li Maolin happily said, very good, very good. Niece's alchemy skills have exceeded my expectations. 3 7-step marked pills will be enough for your junior sister to break through to the core forging stage." After Chu Ting finished speaking, she and Li Xiuzhu both looked at Lu Ping, obviously provoking him. With 3 7-step marked pills in hand, Li Maolin looked at Lu Ping with a relaxed expression. Without waiting for Li Maolin to speak, Lu Ping smiled and said, "Miss Chu's alchemy skills are really extraordinary. I admit defeat. This is a 7-step marked pill that I tried my best to refine. Please, seniorly, appreciate it." Lu Ping also handed over a jade crystal bottle to Li Maolin. When Li Maolin saw that there was indeed a 7-step mark pellet in the bottle, he was overjoyed and praised. "I didn't expect little brother Lu's alchemy skills to be so extraordinary. It's our Li clan's honor to have little brother Lu's help." When Li Xiuzhu saw that Lu Ping had actually refined a 7-step marked pill, his opinion of Lu Ping had clearly changed. Together with Li Maolin, he thanked Lu Ping. To be able to refine a pill like the 7-step marked pill, there was no doubt that Lu Ping was an alchemy grandmaster. Thus, the Li family's father and daughter treated him with even more respect than before. Lu Ping, on the other hand, did not care. In any case, he did not intend to stay in the Li family for long. Instead, Chu Ting's gaze made Lu Ping feel somewhat unfathomable. There was a faint trace of disappointment in her eyes, as if the fact that he had refined the 7-step marked pill had caused her to lose the basis for her judgment. Lu Ping declined the Li family's warm invitation to stay and returned to the cave outside the manor. Outside the cave, Xiao Sima was squatting on the ground and drawing something with a branch. When he saw Lu Ping walking over, Xiao Sima threw the branch over and welcomed him with a joyful expression. Lu Ping looked at the drawing on the ground. It was a drawing of a 500-year-old wind hymn herb. With just a few strokes, the wind hymn herb was perfectly drawn. Lu Ping did not say anything. Instead, he smiled and asked, "Xiao Sima, I haven't seen you for a few days, and your cultivation has already broken through to the mid-blood refining realm?" When Xiao Sima saw that the drawing he drew on the ground did not attract Lu Ping's attention, he could not help but feel slightly disappointed. However, when he heard Lu Ping's praise, he still replied excitedly, "It's all because I earned some spirit stones from Senior. I only managed to break through the mid-blood refining realm the day before yesterday." After entering the cave, Lu Ping sat cross-legged on the cultivation platform. Xiao Sima stood beside him with his hands clasped behind his back. Lu Ping did not speak for a long time. Xiao Sima did not know why Lu Ping had called him here, so he could not help but feel a little anxious. He secretly glanced at Lu Ping. Lu Ping suddenly opened his eyes. Xiao Sima, who was looking at Lu Ping, was startled and quickly looked away. Lu Ping smiled and asked, "Xiao Sima, do you want to learn alchemy?" Xiao Sima was shocked by Lu Ping's sudden question again. He was momentarily speechless. However, he was a quick-witted person after all. He quickly reacted and kneeled on the ground. He said, "I dare not lie to Senior. Xiao Sima indeed wants to be Senior's disciple and learn the art of alchemy." Lu Ping smiled and asked, "Do you know why alchemy is so difficult?" Xiao Sima shook his head and said, "I do not. Please enlighten me, Senior." Lu Ping shook his head and did not explain. Instead, he took out a jade scroll and said, "The art of alchemy cannot be passed down in a day. I plan to roam the Eastern Sea, so I will not be staying here for long. This jade scroll contains my understanding of alchemy during my early years. If you really have the determination and luck to become an alchemist, you must study this jade scroll carefully and build a solid foundation. The path of an alchemist is vast and boundless. Being able to recognize a few stalks of spiritual herbs is only the most basic ability. Xiao Sima knew that his intelligence had been seen through by Lu Ping. His face flushed red and he stuttered, unable to speak. Lu Ping continued, "In a few days, the Li clan will make a move in the 3 family cities. If there are any new shops opened by the Li clan, I have already discussed it with head shopkeeper Li. You can go and apply for a job to purchase spiritual herbs. As for how much you can learn, it will all depend on your own efforts and fate." When Xiao Sima saw that Lu Ping had stopped talking, he knew that today's matter had come to an end. He was smart to begin with. Although he did not become Lu Ping's disciple, he was able to enter the Li clan's walls and obtain Lu Ping's inheritance. As long as he worked hard, his future achievements would not be small. Lu Ping looked at Xiao Sima, who kowtowed to him, and then left the cave dwelling. Lu Ping sat there, deep in thought. In the pitch-black cave dwelling, only Lu Ping's eyes shone brightly. Unbeknownst to him, Debao had been thrown out of the spirit beast pouch by Lu Ping. Recently, Debao's life had been very miserable. This was because Debao wasn't a talented monster. It was only because of Lu Ping's continuous supply of medicinal pellets that it grew from an inconspicuous spirit-seeking mouse to a peak early blood condensation realm monster for the past decade or so. Debao's growth was all thanks to Lu Ping's continuous supply of medicinal pellets. When Lu Ping struggled to concoct pills for the blood refining realm in order to become an alchemist, Debao became Lu Ping's only customer. That was until Lu Ping obtained his second demonic beast. From Lu Ping's point of view, Debao's cultivation was like a castle in the air. His foundation was ridiculously weak. If he didn't do something soon, even if Debao broke through to the mid-blood condensation realm, it would be impossible for him to reach the core forging realm. He might not even be able to advance to the late blood condensation realm. Therefore, after Lu Ping exchanged for the pangolin's condensed blood bead, he didn't let Debao refine it immediately. Instead, he released Samling, Lu Dague, and Lu Qin and started training Debao. To put it nicely, it was to solidify his foundation. Due to Lu Ping's indulgence, Debao was used to being lazy. Lu Ping's other spiritual beasts were more or less dissatisfied with it. Samling was jealous. He was jealous that Lu Ping favored Debao. From Samling's point of view, Lu Ping, who saw him as a father, could only give them his love. From Lu Qin's point of view, Debao was an obscene rat who flaunted the tiger's might. He was good at acting cool and sneaking around, but he was not good at fighting enemies head-on. From Dague's point of view, Debao was a problematic spiritual beast. It didn't have the attitude to work hard for its master. Debao was mercilessly placed on the tea table by Lu Ping. He used each and every one of them to escape from the other's abuse. Debao wanted to escape, but there was a talkative bird on its head. Debao wanted to dig a hole, but there were 3 snakes following it. Debao wanted to escape through the earth, but Lu Ping had cast a spell on the ground of the cave, and Debao had bumped into a bump. Debao wanted to slack off, but Dague was a very dutiful spiritual beast, constantly watching over it. It had to be said that the fastest way for a spiritual beast to improve was to let it continuously fight with other spiritual beasts. When it was used on Debao, it was constantly running away. Debao wasn't born with only 2 innate talents, spirit-seeking and earth escape. However, the other spells it comprehended were all related to these 2. Hence, in this hide-and-seek battle, Debao finally became more and more slippery. The various spells and arrangements it used also became more and more reasonable. Even when the other 5 spiritual beasts joined forces, it was still very difficult to catch this spiritual beast with the lowest cultivation in the cave. Of course, Debao's weight also changed. If Debao in the past was like a fat pig with a small head whose belly was about to fall to the ground, the current Debao was like a clay ball without legs. When it walked, it was impossible to see its 4 legs, only a ball rolling around. At this moment, Lu Ping also couldn't explain why its weight was directly proportional to its ability to escape. At this time, Lu Ping had been in seclusion in the cave for half a year. Finally, Debeo received Lu Ping's approval. It swallowed a condensed blood pearl and refined it, beginning to break through to the mid-stage blood condensation realm. Seeing how Debeo fell into a deep sleep so quickly, Lu Ping knew that Debeo's cultivation had already reached the peak of the third level of the blood condensation realm and was only one step away from breaking through. That was why Debeo's breakthrough was so smooth. After refining the essence of the condensed blood pearl, it would successfully break through to the mid-stage blood condensation realm. Lu Ping saw that other than Debeo, the other spiritual beasts had also improved. Dagui had finally entered the fifth level of the blood condensation realm. Under Lu Ping's intentional suppression, Samling's cultivation was also at the fifth level of the blood condensation realm. Lu Ping had high expectations for Samling. He didn't want them to neglect a solid foundation because of their rapid growth and cultivation. The Blue Phoenix's cultivation was progressing steadily, but because it had entered the late stage of the blood condensation realm, its cultivation speed had slowed down. Now, it was also on the verge of breaking through to the eighth level of the blood condensation realm. Lu Ping was satisfied with the spiritual beast's progress, so he turned his attention back to the 12 gentian pearls revolving around Lu Ping. Lu Ping had gone through many twists and turns to obtain these 12 spiritual pearls. These 12 spiritual pearls were made of high-quality materials, and they were compatible with Lu Ping's cultivation technique. They were the best choice for Lu Ping to use as his natal Dharma artifact. Although Lu Ping's natal gentian diagram repeatedly stated that this natal Dharma artifact was extremely powerful, it wasn't easy to forge and use. However, after Lu Ping obtained the 12 spiritual pearls, he didn't hesitate to forge it. Although Lu Ping was fully prepared for the difficulties, Lu Ping didn't expect that the difficulty of forging this natal Dharma artifact was still beyond his imagination. In the past 6 months, Lu Ping focused on the forging of the natal Dharma artifact. Other than normal cultivation, it could be said that he put aside everything else. Because the forging of the natal Dharma artifact was rarely done by others, everyone didn't want their last resort to be known by others. Lu Ping had only consulted Chun Lian about many questions regarding the natal Dharma artifact. Although Lu Ping wasn't good at forging, he had to forge it himself. In order to ensure the quality of his natal Dharma artifact, Lu Ping was careful in every step of the forging. He didn't dare to be careless. He would rather spend a lot of time, energy, and mana to carve it carefully. In addition, there were a total of 12 Genshin Dharma artifacts. The number far exceeded that of ordinary people, so the time spent was even longer. However, with the hard work of the past 6 months, the natal Dharma artifact was finally close to perfection. Lu Ping looked forward to the 12 pearls even more. Chapter 223. In half a year's time, because the spirit bead was a third-grade spiritual material that was condensed from a degenerated spirit object of heaven and earth, there were many steps that should have been required for tool refining. He only needed to engrave the 9 most important Dharma seals into the spirit bead. This was also the biggest reason why a layman like Lu Ping dared to refine a life-bound magic tool by himself. However, when Lu Ping was refining, he discovered that although the 12 spirit beads saved Lu Ping a lot of refining procedures, when refining the whole set of magic tools, 9 Dharma seals had to be formed on each of the 12 spirit beads. In other words, this set of life-bound magic tools required 12 of the most basic top-grade magic tools. This also meant that when Lu Ping used his own life-bound magic tool, he would need to use the magic power and divine sense of the 12 top-grade magic tools. In the eyes of an ordinary cultivator, this was an impossible goal. Even when Lu Ping realized this, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. However, at this time, Lu Ping had already used his own magic power to nourish the 12 spirit beads for 3 whole months, and spent another 3 months to form 8 Dharma seals in each spirit bead. With only one last step, Lu Ping would be able to complete his 12 top-grade life-bound magic tools, Genshin beads, and form the life-bound Genshin Great Formation. The arrow was already on the bowstring, and there was no time for Lu Ping to regret. Just when Lu Ping was ready to cast the last set of hand seals towards the 12 Genshin beads, an imposing aura suddenly rose from the Li family manor behind Lu Ping's Immortal's Cave dwelling, causing the clouds in the sky to roll and disperse. Immediately after, A rather inexperienced divine sense swept across the three family cities like a child who had discovered something new in his familiar garden, declaring its majesty in the three family cities. Natural energies from all directions began to gather in the air above the manor of the Lee clan, forming a series of inexplicable yet pleasant breezes within a radius of about 1 mile, forming a whirlpool of natural energies that was invisible to the naked eye, but could definitely be detected by divine sense. Celestial phenomena, divine sense, and spiritual chi whirlpool. All of these represented the birth of a core forging expert in the Three Families Island. On this medium-sized island, where the cultivation level was not high, a core forging Taoist master would stand at the peak of the island's cultivators and would have the right to speak in the Three Families Island. For a moment, all the forces and rogue cultivators on the Three Families Island looked at the Lee family with complicated gazes. In his immortal cave, Lu Ping carefully sensed everything that had been triggered by breaking through to the core forging stage. He hoped that it would be useful for his future cultivation. Obviously, Lu Ping's harvest was not ideal. Lu Ping sighed with regret and once again turned his attention to the life gentian bead. On the other hand, because of the convergence of spiritual energy, De Bao had obtained a lot of benefits when passing by Lu Ping's immortal cave, and it seemed that it might awaken ahead of time. 2 hours later, just as Lu Ping had placed the 9th restriction spell into the 12 gentian beads, an imposing aura that was even more vigorous than the previous one directly pierced a large hole in the clouds above the Lee clan manor. A divine sense that did not have the slightest feeling of inexperience swept across the Three Families Island like a flood that had burst a dam. Moreover, the scope of the divine sense that had wreaked havoc was clearly far greater than the first divine sense, which was filled with curiosity, surprise, and excitement. This divine sense contained a kind of natural calmness, as calm as the magma pool before a volcanic eruption. Lu Ping was very familiar with this divine sense. It was the divine sense of the female cultivator, Chu Ting, whom he had encountered in the Lee clan manor. But now, this divine sense was clearly much more powerful, far more powerful than an ordinary cultivator's. Even when compared to a pill master of the same level, it was much stronger. The spiritual chi within a radius of 2 to 3 miles gathered once again, forming a spectacular vortex above the Lee family's manor. It was far larger than the first vortex, which could only be detected by divine sense. The entire vortex covered almost half of the Lee family's manor. The vortex of spiritual chi imperceptibly stirred the surrounding heaven and earth, forming a huge phenomenon. In a single day, the Lee clan had produced 2 core forging cultivators. All the forces in the Three Family cities, large and small, suddenly awoke from the fanaticism of admiring the core forging cultivators and were shocked. The sky of the Three Family cities was really going to change this time. The celestial phenomenon finally disappeared, and the divine sense was withdrawn. Just as the cultivators in the Three Family cities breathed a sigh of relief and were nervously thinking about the future direction of the Three Families Islands, everyone suddenly discovered that the spiritual chi in a radius of several li was still flowing towards the Lee clan manor. Moreover, the speed at which the spiritual chi was flowing was not the slightest bit slower than when the Lee clan's first cultivator broke through to the core forging stage. Could it be that the Lee clan had a third cultivator that was about to break through to the core forging stage? This was no longer just shock. The Three Family cities were in a state of panic. How could this be? What did the Lee clan want to do? The Zhang clan and Wang clan cultivators were thinking this. Were all the cultivators in the Three Family cities thinking this? However, half an hour had passed, and the spiritual chi was still converging. However, the celestial phenomenon of a core forging cultivator did not appear again. Could it be that they still hadn't broken through? The cultivators of the Three Families Islands finally realized that this was not a cultivator breaking through to the core forging stage, but rather a type of spiritual energy absorption when refining a large magic tool or setting up a large array. At this moment, the culprit of all of this was in the Lee clan manor's high-grade Immortal's Cave. He was bitterly struggling to refine the 12 flashing beads that were surrounding him. In the instant that Chu Ting broke through to the core forging stage in the Lee clan manor, Lu Ping finally placed the 9th restriction into the last high bead. The 12 gentian beads were finally refined, and the Life Origin Gentian formation was finally completed. In his joy, Lu Ping impatiently began to refine his own Life Origin magic tool. This time, he didn't refine one Gentian bead at a time, but all 12 Gentian beads at the same time. If the magic power in Lu Ping's blood was like an endless river, then when Lu Ping tried to refine his own Life Origin magic tool, he suddenly found that the magic power in his body was like a broken dam, unable to be controlled. The process of refining the Life Origin Gentian bead had always challenged Lu Ping's estimation of the magic power needed to use this set of Life Origin magic tools. This time was no exception. Lu Ping once again miscalculated. Hopefully, this would be the last time. Chu Ting's breakthrough had attracted the spiritual energy from a few miles away, which undoubtedly helped Lu Ping a lot. But this was just the beginning. Without hesitation, Lu Ping took out 100 mid-grade spirit stones from his storage ring and crushed them all. Although the scattered spiritual energy would waste a lot of it, it would alleviate Lu Ping's predicament of not having enough arcane energy to refine his natal mystic instrument. However, after a while, Lu Ping had no choice but to explode another 100 middle-grade spirit stones in order to maintain the refining of his Life Origin magic tool. At this time, Chu Ting, who had broken through to the core forging stage, had already restrained her aura and began to consolidate her cultivation with Li Xiuzhu. However, Lu Ping's refining work was still continuing. At the same time, the Li clanmanner's spiritual qi was far from enough to refine the Gentian bead. The surrounding spiritual qi, which had been gathered by Li Xiuzhu and Chu Ting when they broke through, began to gather towards Lu Ping's Immortal's Cave dwelling. Moreover, the range of the gathering became larger and larger, attracting more and more attention from the three families. Chapter 224. In the Li family's manor, Li Maolin stood behind his father with a bow. "Do you know who lives in that cave?" "Father, according to third brother, that is Lu Jia's cave. However, the spiritual energy has been gathering there for more than half an hour. Other than that, there is nothing unusual. He should not be breaking through to the core forging stage." The old man was expressionless. He just looked in the direction of Lu Ping's cave. No one knew what he was thinking. After a long time, the old man suddenly said, "Open an opening in the direction of the cave, and let the spiritual energy in the cave pass through." Li Maolin was surprised and said hesitantly, "Father, why do this? He is just a rogue alchemist. If the spiritual energy in the cave is leaked, I am afraid it will take a month to recover. It will be a hindrance to the other cultivators in the family. Moreover, Ting Er and Zhu Er have just broken through. They need a large amount of spiritual energy to consolidate their cultivation." The old man waved his hand and said, "1 month won't affect anything. Just do it." Li Maolin saw that his father had made up his mind, so he left to take charge of the opening of the protective array. At this time, Lu Ping had continuously crushed 700 mid-grade spirit stones. A large amount of spiritual energy exploded. A part of it was directly absorbed by Lu Ping and turned into spiritual energy. The rest was absorbed by the Gentian bead to help Lu Ping refine his life-bound instrument. At this time, the Gentian bead was like 12 bottomless abysses. Not only did it absorb the spiritual energy from the spirit stones, it also continuously attracted the spiritual energy from the surroundings. Lu Ping gritted his teeth and took out 2 milky white spirit stones from his storage ring. This was a phenomenon that would only occur when the spiritual energy had accumulated to a very high level. These were 2 of the 4 high-grade spirit stones that Lu Ping had obtained from the trade fair. Lu Ping couldn't care less about the bleeding in his heart. After exploding 100 mid-grade spirit stones, although the density of the spiritual energy wasn't any less than a high-grade spirit stone, the purity of the spiritual energy was still far inferior. Lu Ping crushed the 2 upper-grade spirit stones, temporarily alleviating the huge amount of spiritual power needed to refine the natal magic tool. Lu Ping quickly swallowed a triple transformation spirit pellet. This was a half-step core forging realm medicinal pellet he concocted using a 1,000-year-old spirit herb he obtained from the trade fair. It was a half-step core forging realm medicinal pellet that could restore one's spiritual energy. In order to obtain the pill formula for this pill, Lu Ping had paid the price of 2 blood-condensing pills. There were only 6,000-year-old spirit herbs used to concoct this kind of medicinal pellet. The difficulty of concocting this kind of medicinal pellet was similar to the Ajarasia pellet. With Lu Ping's current alchemy skills, he could easily achieve a 60% success rate with a single cauldron of 3 transformation spirit pellets. Lu Ping originally concocted this kind of medicinal pellet to save his life at a critical moment, but now he couldn't care less. The moment the triple transformation spirit pill entered his mouth, it melted in his stomach and turned into pure magic energy. Then, Lu Ping quickly refined it into his own magic energy. This was all thanks to Lu Ping's special cultivation method. He could use this kind of pill without any worries. If it was any other cultivator, they would have to be at least at the peak of the blood condensation realm to be able to control such a vast amount of spiritual energy. Seeing that the spiritual energy in the cave was about to run out again, Lu Ping was considering whether he should temporarily stop refining the gentian pearl and let it rest for a while before continuing. However, if he did that, Lu Ping's natal magic tool would inevitably have some flaws, making it even more difficult to control. Lu Ping would have to spend more time nourishing it in order to eliminate these negative effects. At this moment, the Li family manor's protective formation suddenly activated. An invisible hole opened up in the direction of the cave, and a surge of spiritual energy that was much denser than the outside world gushed out. At this moment, the cultivators in the cave all felt that the spiritual energy in the surroundings had suddenly increased by several times. After a moment of commotion, the cultivators naturally wouldn't let go of this opportunity. Regardless of the Li family's reason for doing this, they all began to cultivate in seclusion. Although a lot of this dense and turbulent magic energy was intercepted by the cultivators, most of it was still absorbed by the cave that had been gathering spiritual energy. When everyone discovered this phenomenon while cultivating, they all cursed Lu Ping for being a freak. He clearly hadn't reached the core forging realm yet, but he was causing a commotion that wasn't any weaker than a core forging realm cultivator. Some clever cultivators secretly guessed that the reason the Li family opened the protective formation to release the energy from the spirit vein might have something to do with this mysterious pill master. For Lu Ping, this was undoubtedly a timely help. He didn't have time to think about the Li family's intentions and hurriedly used the 3 transformation spirit pill to temporarily replenish his magic energy. He continued to use the gentian pearl to absorb spiritual energy and speed up the refining process. Another hour passed, and the spiritual energy that swept through the 3 family cities slowly stopped. The thousands of cultivators in the 3 family cities finally breathed a sigh of relief. The Li family manor's protective formation roared and closed again, and the spiritual energy it was spitting out stopped. During these 2 hours, the cultivators in the Li family inn's rented-out caves had cultivated as much as several days of cultivation. At the same time, the density of spiritual energy in the area had been maintained for a long time. This caused the Li family manor to be favored by the cultivators in the 3 family cities for a long time. This allowed Manager Li, who ran the Li family inn, to earn a large amount of spirit stones. At this moment, Lu Ping was sitting cross-legged in the cave and recovering the large amount of magic energy he had consumed during this time. At the same time, he sent his divine sense into the space in his heart. Around the 8 condensed blood beads that Lu Ping had condensed, the 12 gentian pearls were like loyal guards protecting the 8 condensed blood beads in the center. The gentian pearls slowly rotated around the condensed blood beads as if they had a life of their own. They constantly absorbed pure spiritual energy and fused with Lu Ping's own magic energy. At the same time, the refined spiritual energy was fed back into the condensed blood beads. At this step, Lu Ping could finally be considered to have completed his natal mystic instrument, and the Origin Chan Grand Array formed by the 12 Origin Chan beads could be considered to be complete. However, just as Lu Ping was about to wake up from his meditative state, he discovered that after the gentian pearls were completely refined, they were feeding back the spiritual energy they had absorbed. Lu Ping originally thought that this would be completed in a short period of time. However, the spiritual energy fed back was too pure and even seemed endless. Thus, Lu Ping decided to continue his seclusion. In order to complete the life treasure, The 12 gentian pearls had absorbed spiritual energy from a total of 700 mid-grade spirit stones and 2 high-grade spirit stones. They had also retained a portion of the spiritual energy gathered by the 2 core forging enlightened masters when they made their breakthroughs. In addition, Lu Ping's own profound magic energy and the medicinal power of a 3 transformation spirit pill were also added to the full support of the Li family when they released the restrictions on their spirit veins. Through this process, one could imagine the enormous amount of spiritual energy contained in the 12 gentian pearls. After this enormous amount of spiritual energy was gradually refined by Lu Ping's magic energy, it began to slowly feed back to Lu Ping's body. This was a normal phenomenon after the creation of a natal mystic instrument. However, Lu Ping's natal mystic instrument was too special. It was extremely difficult to refine the natal mystic instrument at the last moment, which caused the process to take several times longer. Lu Ping began his seclusion. He continued to nourish the life treasure and cultivate at the same time. Another 3 months passed, and the spiritual energy feeding back from the gentian pearls finally ended. However, Lu Ping still did not wake up from his seclusion. This was because his cultivation had already reached the peak of the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. The 9th layer was just around the corner. Another 3 months passed. Lu Ping's foundation bloodline finally began to sharpen its blade against the remaining wind attribute Peng bloodline in his body. However, the process of breaking through this time was not as smooth as before. The remaining Peng bloodline in his body displayed a powerful combat ability at the last moment. It started a final struggle against the foundation bloodline in his blood. At this moment, Lu Ping's bloodline was like a river being attacked by the tides. The violent turbulence caused Lu Ping to feel as if his body was being torn apart. Lu Ping knew that this was the final obstacle for him to reach the peak of the blood condensation realm. According to the legends, when the 7th patriarch created the world, the most powerful being in the world was Peng Laozu. Therefore, in the blood condensation realm, other cultivators had to fuse with the Peng bloodline. It was also the most difficult bloodline to fuse with. Therefore, fusing with the Peng bloodline to reach the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm was considered the final obstacle for cultivators to reach the core forging realm. Cultivators who reached the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm were also called peak blood condensation realm cultivators. Lu Ping's divine sense fused with the foundation bloodline. He felt a kind of anger of being offended. It was as if in front of Lu Ping's foundation bloodline, other bloodlines could only wait for their fate of being devoured. This was a feeling of superiority, a feeling of talent that could not be offended. Lu Ping circulated the North Sea Wave listening mantra, and the foundation bloodline finally re-evaluated its opponent. Then, it bared its fangs and brandished its claws at the Peng bloodline. This time, there was no more suspense. The foundational bloodline had finally eliminated its last internal enemy. All of the spiritual energy in the Peng bloodline had been devoured by the foundational bloodline. The 9th condensed blood bead in the core space gradually condensed and expanded. It only stopped growing when it was about a third the size of the original 8 condensed blood beads. Lu Ping spat out a mouthful of green blood. It was still a useless bloodline that had lost all its spiritual energy. Lu Ping's foundation bloodline was still as tyrannical as ever. After the 9th condensed blood bead took shape, the 12 gentian beads suddenly trembled. The speed at which they revolved around the condensed blood bead suddenly increased. Slowly, a faint spiritual energy whirlpool formed in the heart space, constantly attracting the spiritual energy around Lu Ping into his body. Then, it was refined by his bloodline and absorbed into the heart space, strengthening the 9th condensed blood bead. This was another benefit of having a natal magic tool. For a cultivator, a natal magic tool had an instinctive effect of gathering spiritual energy. Not only would it help the cultivator cultivate, it would also nourish the body. The blood flowed through Lu Ping's body, but it no longer flowed like a small river. After the foundation bloodline devoured the last variant bloodline, the foundation bloodline became Lu Ping's only bloodline. At this moment, it seemed to take all the spiritual energy of the other 6 bloodlines and the 2 flood dragon bloodlines as its own. Then, it came to life in Lu Ping's blood, and an indescribable change occurred. It was like a vast, long river, using the waves as a horn and the waves as a long roar. It moved forward courageously towards the final juncture, the ninth layer of the blood condensation realm. At this moment, the distance to the core forging realm was no longer far. Chapter 225. Northern Alliance Elixir Association? Lu Ping looked at Li Maolin in surprise. That's right. Li Maolin smiled at Lu Ping and explained. The Northern Alliance has been established for thousands of years. In order to recruit talents and strengthen ourselves, we established this tradition. Every 100 years, when the Northern Alliance is established, we will hold a series of activities. The Northern Alliance Gathering is one of them. Senior Li, you want me to represent the Li family? Yes. Li Maolin's eyes widened. Lu Ping glanced at Li Xiuzhu and Chu Ting, who were sitting at the side. Seeing that they were looking at him, he hesitated for a moment before asking. Miss Chu has already advanced to the core forging realm. Her alchemy skills should be enough to be called an alchemy grandmaster. Senior, why don't you let Miss Chu go? About that? Li Maolin looked at Chu Ting, as if he found it difficult to speak. Because I won't be participating in the Alchemy Association gathering. As for the reason, I hope Brother Lu can forgive me. I can't tell you right now. Chu Ting explained to Lu Ping when she saw Li Maolin's expression. Hearing Chu Ting's words, Li Maolin could only look at Lu Ping inquiringly. Lu Ping thought for a moment. Since the Li clan had activated the protective array formation and used the spirit veins power to help him refine his natal mystic instrument, it would be a great favor to Lu Ping. Hence, he said, all right, I've been looking forward to witnessing such a grand scene. I believe it will also help me improve my alchemy skills. Seeing Lu Ping agree, Li Maolin happily pushed the items on the table to Lu Ping and said, Brother Lu, the Li clan is grateful for your promise. Please accept these items. Lu Ping nodded. Lu Ping didn't refuse and kept everything into his interspatial ring. Li Maolin had already introduced the items to him. There was a jade token for the Big Core Convention, an identity token for the Li clan's guest elder, and a small interspatial pouch that contained 100 500-year spirit herbs and 500 mid-grade spirit stones used to concoct late blood condensation medicinal pellets. Spirit herbs and spirit stones were exactly what Lu Ping needed right now, especially spirit stones. Because of the trade fair and the origin Chen beads, in addition to the fact that Lu Ping had been sparing no effort in collecting spirit herbs, Lu Ping's wealth of more than 200,000 origin stones was almost depleted. Seeing that Lu Ping had accepted the items, Li Maolin's expression relaxed. My daughter and Marshal Nishu will also be attending the alchemy conference. Although Marshal Nishu won't be participating in the conference, she still has to go and enjoy the event. Lu Ping nodded. This kind of large-scale competition and exchange between alchemists had a fatal attraction for every alchemist. Even if Chu Ting had already reached the level of an alchemy grandmaster, it was still the same. There were still 2 years until the alchemy conference. Lu Ping planned to take this opportunity to travel outside. 2 years later, he would directly meet Li Xiuzhu and Chu Ting at the venue of the Northern Alliance's alchemy conference, which was also the Northern Alliance's encampment, Qianyuan Island. After leaving the Li family's residence, Lu Ping directly returned to his cave abode. Previously, after Lu Ping had refined the Gentian bead, he had prepared to leave San Family Island to travel. When he was about to return to his cave abode, he was stopped by Manager Li. When he arrived at the Li family's manor, he finally understood the Li family's intentions. However, Lu Ping did not agree to it to repay the Li family's favor. It was because Lu Ping had indeed developed a strong interest in this year's alchemy conference. With a wave of his hand, the demonic beasts that were rolling around in the cave abode were kept in the spirit beast pouch. Debeo had long since woken up. Due to the spiritual energy wave caused by the 2 core forging enlightened masters' breakthroughs and Lu Ping's crazy act of crushing 90,000 spirit stones at the last moment, Debeo could be said to have benefited greatly. His cultivation had already stabilized to the 4th layer of the blood condensation realm. Lu Dague's cultivation was still at the 5th layer of the blood condensation realm. It was only a matter of time before he reached the 6th layer. Samling's cultivation could not be suppressed in the end, and both of them stepped into the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm. Under the influence of the spiritual energy wave, Lu Qin also broke through to the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. The improvement of his spiritual pets caused Lu Ping's strength to rise to the next level. The 3 islands gradually disappeared into the distance. Lu Ping stood on Lu Dague's back as they slowly traveled southwest. The Northern Alliance's Qianyuan Island was tens of thousands of miles away from here. This was the destination of Lu Ping's trip to the East Sea. As soon as the 3 green sea snakes entered the sea, they started to play around and catch the delicacies in the sea. However, this was the inland sea of the East Sea Islands, so there were obviously no demonic beasts here. Lu Ping knew that the sea was the natural habitat for the green sea snakes. The green sea snakes themselves were the ocean's favorite. On the other hand, Lu Qin still had the temperament of a heartless little girl. She only liked the sky. She circled above Lu Ping's head and chirped cheerfully. She was incomparably happy at all times. Debeo still had a deep hatred for the sea. He would rather stay in the spirit beast pouch and sleep. 3 long chirps could be heard. Lu Ping glanced behind him inconspicuously. A cold smile appeared on his face as he continued deeper into the sea. However, the 3 snakes that had been playing around Lu Ping were nowhere to be seen. A few miles behind Lu Ping, 3 cultivators were slowly following behind Lu Ping. "Big brother, are you sure this person isn't a pill refiner from the Li family?" The cultivator on the left asked hesitantly. The big brother in the middle was in the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm. He replied coldly, "Why would the Li family let their pill refiner leave alone?" The younger brother on the right echoed, "Big brother is right. If this person was really a pill refiner from the Li family, wouldn't the Li family have to send more than 10 mid-layer blood condensation realm cultivators to protect him?" The cultivator on the left still felt that something was wrong. But if this person isn't from the Li family, why didn't the Wang family take action themselves? Why did they secretly leak the news to Big Brother? The cultivator on the right was also taken aback. The 2 of them looked at the cultivator in the middle, waiting for their big brother to explain. The big brother waved his hand impatiently. "Why are you asking so many questions? Let's capture this person first. He's just a 7th layer blood condensation realm cultivator. Don't forget, he's a pill refiner. Which pill refiner isn't rich? Other than spirit stones, he must have a lot of pills on him. He might even have pills that can help him break through to the half-step core forging realm. If that's the case, we'll be rich." The 2 younger brothers immediately forgot their previous doubts. Their minds were filled with thoughts of spirit stones and pills that could increase one's cultivation. At this time, Lu Ping was already far away from the 3 islands. The 3 of them looked at each other and nodded in tacit understanding. They split into 3 directions and surrounded Lu Ping. Clearly, they were very familiar with this kind of thing. Chapter 226. Lu Ping looked at the 3 cultivators surrounding him. The leader was at the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm, while the other 2 were at the 8th layer. "Brat, I heard you're a pill refiner? I'm sure we don't need to tell you what to do next," the leader said proudly. Victory was already in his grasp. Lu Ping didn't show any panic on his face. Instead, he smiled and said, "Ambushing a pill refiner? You guys sure have guts." When the 3 of them heard this, their expressions changed. As people who mingled in the cultivation world, there were a few types of people that were best not to provoke. Alchemists were one of them. This was because these people could easily pull up a huge network of relationships behind them. No cultivator would dare to say that they would not need alchemists in their cultivation journey in the future. With Lu Ping's status as a pill refiner, as long as he made a call, thousands of cultivators in the 3 family cities would be willing to kill them for Lu Ping. The leader snorted and said, "You're only at the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm. If you die here today, who will know?" When the other 2 cultivators heard their leader's words, they regained their senses. The killing intent on their faces became more obvious, and the greed in their eyes became more intense. Lu Ping chuckled and whistled. The leading cultivator immediately felt that something was wrong and hurriedly said coldly, "Let's attack together and kill him." Before the other 2 cultivators could activate their magic tools, 3 huge snake tails suddenly appeared under the feet of the cultivator on the left. They swept horizontally, vertically, and diagonally towards him. The cultivator cried out in alarm. He only had time to activate his protective aura and magic tool. A golden brick knocked away a blue snake tail. Immediately after, the other two snake tails smashed into the sea, creating huge waves. The seawater tumbled, and after a while, it calmed down, leaving only a pool of red blood stains. Just as the three spirits made their move, a clear and melodious cry rang out. A huge gust of wind followed a giant bird that blotted out the sky as it swooped down. The cultivator on the right reacted quickly and had already raised a high-grade golden bell above his head. Lu Qin struck the bell with her claws and the golden bell swayed slightly, firmly protecting the cultivator below it. However, the cultivator's face paled. It was clear that this attack was quite difficult for him to endure. Lu Ping was slightly surprised. It seemed like what Qin Lian said was true. A defensive magic tool that could be forged into the shape of a bell or a tower could be considered a high-quality magic tool. Lu Ping was well aware of the power of the blue phoenix's claws. With her 8th layer blood condensation realm cultivation, it wasn't impossible for her to pierce through a high-grade magic tool. Lu Ping's lips moved slightly, but no one knew what he said. Lu Qin chirped twice as if she was dissatisfied, but she didn't disobey Lu Ping's order. She flapped her wings in a series of wind blades, wind spikes, air blast techniques, air wave techniques, and so on flew towards the cultivator's head. Her attacks were all focused on the golden light curtain hanging down from the golden bell instead of the bell itself. Lu Ping smiled and looked at the leader in front of him. At this time, this big brother had completely lost his high-spirited and victorious expression. He looked at the green flying sword that was floating in the air a few dozen feet in front of him, pointing at him from afar. He didn't dare to move at all. The tip of the green sword pointed at him. The cultivator felt as if his entire body was enveloped by it. The tip of the sword trembled slightly, as if it could attack him from any direction at any time. Sword and tint filled the air. At this moment, the 3 green sea snakes floated up from the bottom of the sea. The green, blue, and white snakes had returned to their 1-foot-long sizes. They looked at the motionless leader pointed at by Lu Ping, then looked at the other cultivators suppressed by the blue phoenix. Then, as if they had discovered something joyous, the 3 snakes immediately circled around the surface of the sea. Their small bodies caused the surface of the sea to ripple and splash tens of feet high. Lu Qin naturally knew that the 3 snakes were provoking her. The Samling, who was only at the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm, had attacked at the same time as Lu Qin. However, they had killed their opponent before Lu Qin. Naturally, they laughed at Lu Qin, who had a higher cultivation than them, for not being able to finish off their opponent. Suddenly, a few urgent chirps came from the sky, as if to explain that the reason why they couldn't finish off their opponent was because of their master's orders. Then, an angry cry rang out. Lu Qin finally released all of her suppressed anger. She couldn't care less about Lu Ping's warnings anymore. She opened her beak, and a green flame burst out. With the help of her wings, it turned into a green fireball that flew towards the cultivator's golden bell. The moment the fireball collided with the golden light barrier, it exploded. The entire golden bell was instantly engulfed in green flames. The golden light barrier sizzled, and the golden luster on the surface of the golden bell dimmed. Be careful. The leading cultivator couldn't care less about the danger of Lu Ping's green sword and quickly shouted. However, the cultivator, who was engulfed in flames, couldn't care less about his big brother's warning. Just as he channeled all of the arcane energy in his body into the golden bell, the green flames suddenly bent over. The cultivator looked up and saw the huge green phoenix swooping down again. The cultivator, who was almost at the end of his rope, could no longer resist Lu Qin's attack. The golden bell wailed and was knocked away by the green phoenix. Lu Qin swept her left wing, and the cultivator's head flew into the air. Lu Ping didn't move when the leader warned his lackeys. He still pointed the green sword at the cultivator from afar. The leader's face was covered in sweat, and he was on the verge of collapse. The leader couldn't bear the suffocating sword and tint any longer. He stopped resisting and asked bitterly, "Who are you?" Lu Ping smiled slightly, and the green sword hung above the leader's head. The leader's face twitched. Obviously, he couldn't do anything about Lu Ping's cautiousness. At this time, Lu Ping walked forward and said, "I should be the one asking you this, right?" Just as Lu Ping walked forward, the green sword trembled, as if Lu Ping's control of the green sword was slightly weakened because he was multitasking. The leader suddenly launched an attack. A bow appeared in his hand, and he quickly pulled it to the limit. He shot an arrow at Lu Ping, and then he hung a mirror above his head. He ignored the green sword in the sky and turned to fly away. Lu Ping seemed to be prepared for this, but the leader's magic bow and arrow was beyond Lu Ping's expectation. A stream of clear water flew out of the crystal glass bowl and formed a water shield in front of Lu Ping. However, it was pierced by the arrow condensed by magic power and finally stopped by the cloudy sky. At this time, the cultivator had run hundreds of feet away. Lu Ping was not in a hurry. The green sword whistled, and hundreds of sword lights formed a waterfall in the sky. It instantly caught up with the cultivator and slashed at his back. The cultivator seemed to be quite confident in his magic weapon, and he still flew faster. Just as the Qinghan sword was about to strike the surface of the mirror, the golden mirror suddenly emitted a beam of golden light that swept across the Qinghan sword. Over 300 sword beams were instantly halved, leaving only 81 spiritual sword beams and the remaining ordinary sword beams that struck the golden mirror. A piercing sound that made one's teeth hurt was heard. The golden mirror shook and finally blocked Lu Ping's sword light. When the green sword hit the defensive magic weapon, the cultivator who was running staggered and ran even faster. Lu Ping was a little surprised by the power of the golden mirror, but he still sneered and said, "Let's see where you can run this time." The auspicious cloud under his feet flashed, and he caught up with the cultivator in a moment. The green sword slashed again. This time, a golden light flashed on the golden mirror again, but it only cut off dozens of sword lights. The green sword's sword light slashed on the mirror, and the golden mirror shook and was sent flying. The cultivator's face turned pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The sword light continued to slash down, and just as it was about to kill the cultivator, the protective Gangqi outside the cultivator's body flashed. The originally golden Gangqi was suddenly covered with a layer of pink. When the green sword slashed on it, Lu Ping immediately felt that the green sword was blocked by a layer of soft but tough material. Lu Ping's expression changed. This person's protective Gangqi was actually fused with a natural oddity, and the natural oddity was very familiar to Lu Ping. It was the 100-flower fiend that cultivator number 58 had used to exchange with Chu Ting at the trade fair. Judging from the 100-flower fiend that he had fused with the 100-flower fiend, it was obvious that he had fused with a lot more than the small ball of 100-flower fiend that he had used to exchange with Chu Ting. This person should be the cultivator number 58 who had sat beside him at the underground trade fair. The cultivator borrowed the power of Lu Ping's attack to spit out another mouthful of blood. He turned into a ball of golden light and disappeared in a flash. When he reappeared, he was already hundreds of meters away. Lu Ping was angry that his two attacks had missed. In terms of strength, this person was probably slightly weaker than the 18 generals of the North Sea. However, this person had a lot of strange techniques. This made Lu Ping's excitement after breaking through to the peak of the blood condensation realm dampen. Since Lu Ping had already decided to kill him, he wouldn't let him go so easily. He executed the wave-treading technique and combined it with the auspicious cloud. In the blink of an eye, they chased after each other. The cultivator turned around and threw out two items. Lu Ping could clearly see that one of them was a green jade slip. In a situation like this, the only thing he could use to escape was a talisman treasure. Lu Ping didn't care. He took out a talisman treasure from his storage ring and activated it. The talisman treasure he had obtained from the trade fair was activated. 3 golden halos appeared out of thin air and trapped Lu Ping in the middle. After the green talisman treasure exploded, it turned into 72 green arrows that shot towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping's speed didn't change at all. He forcefully charged out of the rain of arrows. The 3 halos around him had already been destroyed, but Lu Ping was still unscathed. At this time, the cultivator's second item also flew towards Lu Ping. With a bang, it exploded, and a cloud of black fog enveloped Lu Ping. Chapter 227. Even though Lu Ping was shrouded in the black mist, the cultivator didn't slow down. However, a mocking laugh could be heard. "Haha, I don't believe you can still catch up to me after being shrouded in this 100-flower miasma." As soon as the cultivator's voice fell, he saw the black fog that wrapped around Lu Ping suddenly shrink rapidly. Under the cultivator's incredulous gaze, Lu Ping, who had propped up the golden protective Gang Qi, absorbed the black 100-flower miasma and chased after the cultivator again. This 100-flower miasma was different from the 100-flower evil spirit, which could quickly recover and heal. Not only could the 100-flower miasma infect the cultivator's Gang Qi, but it could also infect the cultivator's magic power through the Gang Qi, weakening the cultivator's control over his own magic power. Moreover, once the 100-flower miasma was inhaled by the cultivator, it would make the cultivator dizzy and create illusions in the mind. The leader of the cultivators originally thought that with this small ball of concentrated 100-flower miasma, even if it could not make Lu Ping create illusions and give up the chase, it could weaken Lu Ping's magic power and slow down his speed of pursuit. However, Lu Ping's protective Gang Qi was integrated with the 10,000 poison liquid to form the unique 10,000 poison meteorite gang. What it was least afraid of was all kinds of poisonous miasma. Instead, these things became a great supplement for Lu Ping's protective Gang Qi. Lu Ping attacked for the third time. The Qinghan sword rolled up a huge wave in the sea and turned into a water dragon that was far more powerful than before. It shook its head and wagged its tail. The single horn on the top of its head rose, and the cultivator's 100-flower aura cracked. In the cultivator's desperate eyes, the water dragon opened its huge mouth and swallowed the cultivator whole. A moment later, the Qinghan sword flew toward Lu Ping with an exquisite storage bag. At the same time, the shrunken cyan phoenix also landed on Lu Ping's shoulder with a storage bag in its mouth. Samling swam over from the sea, and Lu Bai also had a storage bag on her head. It had been a long time since he felt this kind of harvest. Lu Ping looked at the person in front of him whose cultivation was restrained by the water binding technique and said with a smile, "I don't need to tell you what to do next, right?" This was what the three of them had said before they surrounded and attacked Lu Ping. The cultivator looked at the Qinghan sword that was constantly appearing and disappearing around him, as if it would cut off a piece of flesh from his body at any time. He repeatedly begged for mercy. Don't, I'll tell you. The reason we're chasing you this time is because someone in the 3 family cities leaked your whereabouts." Lu Ping took out a gourd from his storage ring and took a sip. He then sighed and said, "After all, it's only brewed with 100 types of ordinary 500-year-old spiritual herbs. It's getting more and more limited for me. It seems that I can only continue to collect spiritual herbs to brew the Great 100 Spiritual Wine or the 1,000 Spiritual Wine. However, the effects of brewing the Great 100 Spiritual Wine with 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs are not bad either." Seeing that Lu Ping was ignoring him, the cultivator continued to use the Qinghan sword to unleash the invisible sword art. However, the cold edge of the sword had begun to stick to the cultivator's skin, as if it would cut off at any time. The cultivator's expression began to panic and his eyes darted around as if he was frightened. He hurriedly said, "It's the Li family. Aside from the Li family, who else would know your departure date and route?" Lu Ping acted as if he hadn't heard him and muttered to himself, "Now I'll need to change my flying magic tool to a top-grade one." Although the Magic Cloud Bracelet's flying speed is not bad among high-grade magic tools, it's not enough for now. At this moment, the cultivator's face was ashen. Lu Ping turned a deaf ear to his confession, and a small snake, as white as jade, had already climbed up the cultivator's leg. Wherever the small snake passed, a bone-piercing cold immediately caused the cultivator to shiver. The cultivator's teeth continuously chattered, but he still struggled to continue to confess. "Zhang family? I'm a member of the Zhang family. Normally, I mix in with the loose cultivators of the 3 family cities and gather a few loose cultivator forces. I secretly do some shady things for the Zhang family. Your whereabouts and date were leaked by the Zhang family's spies hidden in the Li family. The Zhang family has been established in the 3 family islands for the longest time and has the deepest foundation. It's not strange for the other 2 families to have spies from the Zhang family. This time, Lu Ping finally looked back at him and smiled. You were sent by the Wang family? The cultivator's eyes suddenly became deep and then immediately changed. However, with Lu Ping's keen spiritual sense, he had already paid attention to the cultivator's every movement. The cultivator's instantaneous change in expression didn't escape Lu Ping's perception. The cultivator still had the anxious tone of a scared ghost and said, "Who do you think I belong to? I only ask that you give me a way out. After all, I was ordered by someone and had no choice." As soon as the cultivator finished speaking, he felt a chill on his ankle. The cultivator was startled, and when he looked up, he saw that the small white snake had already mercilessly bit down. A bone-chilling feeling spread from his feet to the top of his head. The cultivator looked at Lu Ping in disbelief, and the corner of his mouth twitched as he said with difficulty, You. Then, there was no more movement. The corpse immediately became stiff, and a thin layer of white ice gradually began to condense on the surface of the corpse. Lu Ping turned around and stood on De Gui's back. They changed directions and quickly left the sea. When Lu Ling got down from the cultivator's corpse, she intentionally or unintentionally flicked her tail. The cultivator's body seemed to be affected by the snake's tail and immediately shattered into pieces of ice crystals that floated on the sea surface. With the turbulence of the sea, the ice crystals gradually disappeared without a trace. Just a moment after the cultivator fell, in the Wang family's manor on Three Families Island, an angry roar came out. The entire Three Families Island was once again covered by a great pressure. Then, a ray of light suddenly flew out of Three Families Island and headed southwest. Senior Apprentice Sister Ting, that direction should be the direction that Pillmaster Luju went, right? Humph, it's just a wasted trip. It seems that the people sent by the Wang family are quite important. Even their own core forging enlightened masters want to intervene. This person is called Wang Hua, ranked third among the Wang family's 4 core forging enlightened masters. In the past, he was a famous playboy in Three Families Island. It is said that he has many illegitimate children. At this time, Lu Ping had already turned north. At the same time, Lu Ping put on the Mirage gauze robe. Lu Ping's aura suddenly changed, becoming faintly discernible. With the effect of the spirit concealment technique and the red mask given to him by Yang Xianmu, even if someone familiar with Lu Ping saw him, they would definitely not be able to recognize him. Of the 3 storage bags, only the last storage bag of the leading cultivator caught Lu Ping's interest. At this time, Lu Ping was holding a jade slip in his hand and was looking at its contents. It's actually a map of a place in the Fallen Mystery Land. The Fallen Mystery Land is a good place to travel. Although it is very dangerous, there are a lot of heavenly materials and earthly treasures in it. This cultivator from the Wang family had some luck. No wonder he could cultivate the 100 Flowers astral chi. Chapter 228. In fact, the Fallen Secret Land was not a closed space like Failing Island or the 7-Star Sky. It was a natural miracle. No one knew when the Fallen Secret Land was formed. It was said that when the 7th Patriarch opened up this world, the Fallen Secret Land had already existed. The Fallen Secret Land was located in the extreme north of the East Sea. It was made up of countless islands of different sizes, forming a fragmented archipelago. It was a real place where humans and demons lived together. It was strange and unpredictable, with dangers and opportunities coexisting. It was a paradise for adventurers. It was said that in the depths of the Fallen Secret Land, even Lao Tzu, who was in the Dharma characteristic stage, would appear. This showed the value of the Fallen Secret Land. There were even natural formations and prohibitions formed by the power of heaven and earth in the Fallen Secret Land. No cultivator had ever been able to understand the true nature of the Fallen Secret Land. They could only marvel at the power of nature. Lu Ping recalled what he had learned about the East Sea during this period. There were many legends about the Fallen Secret Land. Lu Ping had long been yearning for this mysterious place. Now that he had this map in his hand, and judging from the map, the leader seemed to have found some treasures in the Fallen Secret Land. Lu Ping would certainly not let it go. In addition, the Cyan Phoenix also brought the Golden Bell, which had lost its spiritual light after being hit by her. Although Lu Ping was not proficient in refining weapons, Because he had a friend like Chen Lian, who was a genius in refining weapons, Lu Ping had a good eye for appraising the quality of various kinds of celestial weapons. Although this golden bell was only a high-grade celestial weapon, it had been refined with top-grade spiritual materials. It could be promoted to a top-grade celestial weapon at any time. This golden bell was obviously a very good natal celestial weapon. Lu Ping played with it, which had shrunk to the size of a bell. Although it had been damaged by the Cyan Phoenix's attack, it would recover with some nourishment. However, it was a metal celestial weapon, so its power would be greatly reduced in the hands of Lu Ping. The bronze mirror that had been hid away by Lu Ping was also picked up by the Cyan Phoenix. The Cyan Phoenix had always been fond of cleaning up battlefields, especially this kind of shiny object, which had always been very attractive to her. However, the Cyan Phoenix's enthusiasm for these things could not be maintained for a long time. After showing it off for a while, she got tired of it and threw it back to Lu Ping, ignoring it. Lu Ping was quite interested in this bronze mirror. In addition to being able to defend against attacks, it could also emit a golden light to weaken the power of spells. In Lu Ping's first attack, more than 300 sword energies were directly cut in half by this light. The leader had obviously put a lot of effort into this top-quality spirit transformation mirror. In Lu Ping's view, this mirror was a bit more powerful than the Cloudy Sky mirror. In the future, it could be used to upgrade it into a magic treasure. Unfortunately, this bronze mirror was still not compatible with Lu Ping's cultivation method. In Lu Ping's hands, it was difficult for it to display its full power. What Lu Ping cared about the most was the jade bottle and the jade slip in his hand. These were the half-step core forging pills and pill recipes that cultivator number 58 had exchanged from Chu Ting with the small ball of 100-flower slaughter chi. The two things that cultivator number 58 had asked for had to be pills or pill recipes that could help him condense his golden core. However, from the several times the two had bargained, it was obvious that it was impossible to get both. Lu Ping opened the jade bottle. There were a total of 5 red pills inside. The surface of the pills would flash red from time to time, and a spicy smell would spread out, almost choking Lu Ping's nose. 3-turn origin nourishing pill. Lu Ping naturally recognized this pill at a glance. It was a half-step core forging pill that corresponded to the 3-turn spirit pill that Lu Ping had refined. The 3-turn spirit pill was used to restore the spirit force inside a cultivator's body, while the 3-turn origin nourishing pill was used to repair the injuries inside a cultivator's body. Lu Ping carefully examined the red pills one by one. It was easy to see that these 5 pills were refined from the same furnace. In other words, Chu Ting had refined the 3-turn origin nourishing pill, which also contained 6 kinds of 1,000-year-old spirit herbs. The 3-turn origin nourishing pill, which had the same difficulty as the 3-turn spirit pill, had a success rate of at least 50%. This woman was indeed powerful. Not only did she possess a secret technique that allowed her to transform her divine sense, but she also possessed a high-grade pill cauldron and a heaven and earth spirit fire that had lost its spirituality. Lu Ping couldn't help but touch the storage ring on his hand. Inside it was a top-grade pill cauldron that he had obtained from the 7 Stars Temple, the Na Chuan Cauldron. However, even with Lu Ping's cultivation at the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm, he didn't think that he could completely refine this cauldron. Even if he managed to refine it, Lu Ping wouldn't be able to provide the vast amount of magic power needed to use this cauldron. To an alchemist, this was undoubtedly a form of torture. Of course, it was also a form of temptation and motivation. Lu Ping placed the jade crystal bottle together with his 3-turn spirit pill. Then, he started to use his divine sense to examine the purple jade slip. Lu Ping had seen this kind of jade slip several times before. Most of them were messages left behind by core forging enlightened masters using their divine sense. However, the few purple jade slips that Lu Ping had obtained were all sealed by their divine sense. Before Lu Ping reached the core forging realm, he wouldn't be able to read the contents of the jade slip. Obviously, there was no seal on this jade slip. Lu Ping closed his eyes and carefully examined the contents of the jade slip with his divine sense. He allowed Debeo to carry him on the sea surface and drift towards the north. Samling had already dived to some unknown place at the bottom of the sea to play hide-and-seek. Lu Qin, on the other hand, hung a golden bell that had shrunk to the size of a bell. After a long time, Lu Ping finally woke up from his meditative state. Figuring out a pill recipe was the most tiring task for an alchemist. Pill recipes were a special method of inheritance and communication for alchemists. They were different from the jade slips recorded by ordinary cultivators. The process of alchemy recorded in the jade slip was actually the true understanding of the alchemist when refining this kind of pill. It was a kind of divine sense imprint. This kind of process was very difficult for non-alchemists to understand. Moreover, these divine sense imprints would become dim and disappear as the alchemist tried to figure out the pill recipe more and more. In the end, it would be useless. Therefore, when an alchemist tried to figure out a pill recipe, he would cherish it very seriously. Enchanting Thought Pill. It was a kind of pill that was half a step into the core forging realm. This pill was not used to help a cultivator prepare to break through to the core forging realm. Instead, it was used to sense the realm. After a cultivator took this pill, an illusion would appear in his divine sense. In the illusion, the cultivator's cultivation would increase by 1 realm, reaching the core forging realm. In the illusion, the cultivator could carefully feel the various feelings after reaching the core forging realm and familiarize himself with the cultivation method of the core forging realm. It could be said that it was a preview for a cultivator to reach the core forging realm in advance. After taking this pill, although it would not have the slightest effect on the cultivator's magic power, the process of breaking through to the core forging realm would not be unfamiliar to the cultivator. The process would also be smoother. Lu Ping put away the pill recipe with satisfaction. He whistled and called the Cyan Phoenix down from the sky. He put away the Gue and jumped onto the Cyan Phoenix's back. They flew in the direction of the fallen secret land. The fallen secret land was too far away. If he had to rely on Gue to swim across the sea, it would probably take him 1 or 2 months to reach it. A few days later, a beautiful cyan bird suddenly flew over a sea that was shrouded in clouds and mist all year round. The bird circled quietly in front of the endless islands that were shrouded in clouds and mist. The cultivator, sitting cross-legged on the back of the bird, was shocked by the scene in front of him. This was the fallen secret land. Tens of thousands of islands suddenly appeared on the boundless sea, like a vast forest suddenly appearing on a plain. These islands were of different sizes and shapes. Some were near, some were far, some were fragmented, and they were scattered on the sea without any pattern. They were shrouded by the fog that rose from the sea all year round, and the deeper one went into the archipelago, the thicker the fog became. No cultivator could tell the size of the islands, known as the Fallen Secret Land, because no human or demon cultivator had ever flown across it. It was said that not even a Dharma adept like Lao Tzu could do it. The Fallen Secret Land was filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Many experts from both the human and demon clans lived in seclusion here. Even a Dharma adept like Lao Tzu would not dare to act presumptuously here. Lu Ping descended from the back of the Cyan Phoenix. The islands in the distance were covered by a green forest. All kinds of cries could be heard coming from the forest. Lu Ping took out the map of the Fallen Secret Land and checked it carefully. This should be the entrance that the leading cultivator had chosen to enter the Fallen Secret Land. Lu Ping stood on Gui's back as they crossed the sea between 2 islands. The originally calm sea surface would occasionally ripple as the man and the turtle passed by. Occasionally, there would even be a splash of blood. Lu Ping ignored it and continued to follow the map to the center of the Fallen Secret Land. Dark shadows flashed under the sea surface from time to time. Occasionally, he would see a huge snake's tail poking out of the water. The Fallen Secret Land could be divided into 3 levels: the outer, middle, and inner area. The outer area of the Fallen Secret Land was the outermost part of the archipelago. It was filled with coral reefs and small islands. It was a paradise for blood condensation realm cultivators in the East Sea. Further in, there were medium-sized islands, which were frequented by core forging realm cultivators. As for the inner area of the Fallen Secret Land, it was said that there were large islands and spirit veins there. Most of them were occupied by Dharma adepts like Lao Tzu. This time, Lu Ping's destination was a secluded small island near the middle layer of the Fallen Secret Realm. It was also the place where the lead cultivator found the 100-flower miasma and condensed the 100-flower miasma. After traveling for a few dozen miles, Lu Ping finally gathered his spiritual pets together. According to the map, from here onwards, blood condensation realm demonic beasts and adventurers would appear more frequently. Lu Ping's unscrupulous way of entering the fallen secret land would easily attract the hostility of both the human and demon clans. Just as Lu Ping stepped onto the beach of a small island, the white sand around him suddenly rose up, blocking Lu Ping's vision and trying to distract Lu Ping's attention. Amidst the flying sand particles, a black shadow and a white ray of light were hidden in the midst of the flying sand particles, flying towards Lu Ping's direction at high speed. Chapter 229. Just as the two attacks were about to land on Lu Ping, a bronze mirror suddenly appeared in Lu Ping's hand. Lu Ping waved it, and a golden ray of light shot out from the bronze mirror, brushing past the black shadow. The black shadow immediately lost its momentum and fell in front of Lu Ping, creating a huge crater in the sand. Lu Ping stretched out his right hand and clenched it. A belt of water appeared, creating a path through the sand. Then, it transformed into a giant hand made of flowing water, grabbing tightly onto the glowing white object. Two muffled groans could be heard from outside the flying sand. Clearly, their sneak attack had failed, and their magic tool had been snatched away. The flying sand became even more violent, gradually forming a whirlpool of quicksand on the ground. At the same time, the sandstorm on the ground became even more violent, forming a sandstorm that reached the sky, surrounding Lu Ping. Lu Ping frowned. He had unintentionally fallen into someone's trap and was trapped by an array formation. Lu Ping didn't have much knowledge about array formations. What he knew about array formations came from Hu Lily's daily conversations. Seeing the sandstorm and whirlpool rushing towards him, Lu Ping had no choice but to draw out all the water in the crystal bowl. Fortunately, there was enough water stored in the bowl. Lu Ping used the art of traveling clouds and summoning rain, and a light drizzle fell from the sky above the array formation, suppressing the crazy sandstorm. When the drizzle fell on the beach, it didn't seep into the ground. Instead, Lu Ping used the art of blue waves again, washing away the quicksand whirlpool on the ground. Lu Ping looked at the temporarily tranquil space in front of him. His divine sense flowed like a stream of water, penetrating every nook and cranny in all directions. At that moment, the sand on the beach changed again. The sand rose up quickly and formed into 12 sand giants. Each of them was in the 6th layer blood condensation realm, and they rushed towards Lu Ping with every step. Lu Ping's expression was calm. He swung his Qinghan sword, and dozens of sword lights shot out. In the blink of an eye, the first sand giant was disintegrated into a pile of sand. The remaining 11 sand giants didn't stop at all. They charged at Lu Ping, smashing, stomping, slapping, and kicking. Lu Ping stood in the middle and didn't dodge. The Qinghan sword above his head suddenly shot out more than 300 sword rays in all directions. The 11 sand giants were dismembered into a cloud of sand that rained down from the sky. Lu Ping's divine sense was still searching for something in the array formation. However, the 12 sand dunes that Lu Ping destroyed merged back together, forming 6 sand giants. However, each of them was at the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm. They surrounded Lu Ping again. Just as the 6 giants were about to attack Lu Ping again, Lu Ping suddenly leaped up. The 6 giants' attacks landed on the spot where Lu Ping was standing a moment ago, sending sand and dust into the air. With the Qinghan sword in hand, Lu Ping slashed out 36 times in a row towards the southeast. The 36 sword lights gathered together and were led by 9 spiritual sword lights, forming a simple 9 palaces sword array. It floated in front of Lu Ping but didn't attack. Lu Ping's Qinghan sword danced in the air and slashed out the same 7 sword arrays in 7 other directions. The last sword slash was aimed at his feet. 9 palaces sword arrays led by 9 spiritual sword lights formed at the same time. As the last slash of the Qinghan sword in Lu Ping's hand was completed, the 9 sword arrays flew in different directions at the same time. Another 2 screams sounded outside the array formation. 9 explosions sounded almost at the same time. The world around Lu Ping seemed to be collapsing. The earth shook and the mountains shook. Lu Ping knew that the array formation he set up was collapsing. The gloomy scenery in front of him shattered. Sunlight, beach, green forest, and 2 figures that were running towards the depths of the forest on the island. A clear cry rang out. Unknowingly, a huge green demon bird suddenly appeared in front of the 2 people. The demon bird swooped down and spat out a ball of green flames. With a flap of its wings, it immediately turned into a cloud of fire, sweeping towards the 2 people. The cloud of fire had yet to pounce over, but the scorching aura already caused the 2 people to turn pale with fright. Clearly, this cloud of fire was not ordinary. The 2 people had no choice but to try to go around this cloud of fire. However, the moment they turned, they immediately felt something tighten around their waist. When they looked down, they saw that 2 water ropes had unknowingly wrapped around their bodies. Just as the 2 people tried to break free, the 2 water ropes suddenly extended out countless tiny water lines, flowing towards various parts of the 2 people's bodies. In the blink of an eye, they formed a dense net of water on the 2 people's bodies, imprisoning them. "Spare us!" The 2 people shouted at the same time. Their voices were sharp, as if they had been frightened by Lu Ping's lightning-fast methods. Lu Ping walked towards the 2 people. In an instant, he was only 3 zhang away from them. At that moment, the faces of the 2 people who were imprisoned by the water net suddenly turned blood red. A surge of magic power suddenly burst out from their bodies, and the water net on their bodies immediately collapsed. The 2 people, who had recovered their magic power, rushed towards Lu Ping at the same time, ready to fight to the death. The blood explosion technique. By exploding one of the condensed blood beads in one's body as the price, one's spiritual power would explode in exchange for a temporary tyrannical power. This meant that one's cultivation would not be able to advance in the future. These were true desperados. The 2 people suddenly attacked. Lu Ping did not expect that the 2 people in front of him would be so decisive. At that moment, Lu Ping no longer had the time to activate the cloudy sky. Looking at the 2 people rushing towards him with a sinister smile, a golden protective stellar chi suddenly appeared. The 2 people seemed to have been prepared for this. One of them attacked first. Previously, the magic tools in their hands had already been struck down by Lu Ping in the array formation. At this moment, the 2 people only had 2 spare high-grade magic tools in their hands. Their intention was for one person to destroy the protective stellar chi first, while the other person would take the opportunity to attack and kill their opponent. Whether they could survive or not depended on this move. Just as the 2 people revealed expressions of having escaped death and turning defeat into victory, they saw Lu Ping coldly looking at them. Immediately after, the magic tool in the hands of the first cultivator had already struck Lu Ping's protective stellar chi. Lu Ping's protective stellar chi shook, but it did not shatter. What a powerful protective stellar chi. Dong! The second cultivator, who could not stop in time, also slammed into Lu Ping's protective stellar chi, but it still did not shatter. How was this possible? In a split second, how could Lu Ping give the 2 people a second chance to attack? With a sweep of his Qinghan sword, 2 heads flew into the air. All that was left on their heads was an expression of shock and disbelief. 2 8th-level blood condensation cultivators who had destroyed their condensed blood beads wanted to shatter his myriad poison meteorite star? After putting away the 2 storage bags, Lu Ping reflected on his carelessness. In the end, he had still fallen into a trap. The ferocity of the cultivators in the parish mystic realm was far beyond the rumors. Right now, Lu Ping had only entered the outermost island of the mystic realm, and he had already encountered such a dangerous situation. If he went any deeper, the danger would be unimaginable. Tell me, how much wealth does our Soundwave Island have, and how much does it offer each time? Wu Yin said embarrassedly. Island Lord, our Listening Waves Island is a small island, and it is relatively barren in the arcane territory. We only have 20 acres of spiritual fields, a black-spotted bamboo garden with a total of 83 stalks of black-spotted bamboo, and a spirit herb garden with a total of 1 acre, all of which are century-old spirit herbs. In addition, there is a small spirit vein in the Island Lord's cave, but only the Island Lord can use it. What? Lu Ping was a little dumbfounded. If such a small island was in the North Sea, it would have long been considered a treasure island. Lu Ping's Huangli Island had been in operation for many years, and it was only because he had cultivated 5 or 6 small spirit veins that the number of spiritual fields on the island had increased. From 5 acres of spiritual fields to 10 acres, and even half of the spirit herb garden had been opened up. This was already considered a good management by the cultivators of the Zhenling Island. Now, it was just an ordinary or even barren miniature island in the secret plain, yet it had such wealth. Wu Yin saw Lu Ping's expression and clearly misunderstood him. She hurriedly said, "Although our Listening Waves Island is a little barren compared to the other islands, it is mainly because the previous 2 island lords were proficient in formations and discovered the small spirit vein in the Island Lord's cave that was about to take shape. In order to cultivate it as soon as possible, they used the power of a formation to draw the spirit vein from more than a dozen places on the island where spiritual energy gathered. In the end, although the spirit vein was successfully cultivated, the island lost more than a dozen acres of spiritual fields, and half of the black-spotted bamboo in the black-spotted bamboo garden has withered." As he said this, he shook his head repeatedly, appearing to be quite regretful. Lu Ping composed himself and said, "That is not bad. After all, there is an additional small spirit vein, which will be of some benefit to everyone's cultivation." Wu Yan's face stiffened, and she hurriedly said, No, that is the Island Lord's cultivation place. How can we occupy the Island Lord's cultivation place? Normally, we will only be nourished by the spiritual energy in the periphery. Moreover, the spirit vein is the most secretive thing on our Listening Waves Island. This matter must not be known by the other island lords, otherwise the other powerful island lords will inevitably come to snatch it. Oh, Lu Ping nodded. It seemed that the secret territory was indeed a place where the strong preyed on the weak. However, Lu Ping looked at the people around him. Until now, the secret of the spirit vein had not been revealed. It was clear that the unlucky bastard killed by Lu Ping had quite a bit of control. As for the tribute, Wu Yin said hesitantly, the island's tribute was originally 1/3 of the island's income. However, in order to cultivate the spirit vein, the previous island lord used up a large amount of spiritual energy in the secret territory, causing the island's originally prosperous days to become a lot more tense. We had no choice but to leave the island to hunt demonic beasts and collect spiritual herbs and materials to make up for the tribute. For this reason, 2 of our brothers and a few blood-refining realm cultivators died. The 2 previous island lords also set up a trap on the new cultivators who came to the secret territory and set up the Wild 9 Toonsand array on the beach. Who would have thought that the island lord's cultivation would be so high? Lu Ping waved his hand to stop Wu Yin from flattering him. He said, "Don't worry, all of you will carry out your duties. Since the ones who will come looking for trouble are the blood condensation realm cultivators from the other islands and not the core forging realm enlightened masters, I will protect all of you." Everyone was waiting for Lu Ping to say this. They knew very well how powerful the 2 previous island lords were. When the 2 island lords worked together, they were quite famous in the nearby islands with the formations they had set up. They didn't even put the average blood condensation realm cultivator in their eyes. However, they were easily defeated by this young man in front of them with just a few slashes. It was clear that this young man was more ruthless than them. In a place as dangerous as the fallen mystic realm, following a strong cultivator was the wisest choice. This was also the reason why everyone took the risk to acknowledge Lu Ping as the new island lord after they saw him kill the 2 previous island lords. This was also a strange phenomenon in the fallen mystic realm. In this place, no one dared to trust each other, and they were always on guard against each other. However, the cultivators on the same island had a common enemy, and they fought against the other islands to protect their own interests. Accompanied by Wu Yin, Lu Ping inspected the properties on the island and performed the spirit-urging technique on the spot. These people were all rogue cultivators. It was already rare for them to be able to nurture spirit grains, spirit herbs, and spirit materials. They had never seen such a mystical secret technique that could shorten the growth cycle of spirit herbs. They were all amazed. Initially, they were worried about the death of the previous island lord, but now, the frowns on these people's brows had eased up. There were more than a dozen blood-refining realm cultivators on the island who were responsible for taking care of these spirit gardens. In addition to cultivating, they would also go to the dense forest on the island to collect spirit herbs. This miniature island had a radius of more than 20 miles. Except for the beach where Lu Ping had landed, the other directions were all cliffs and cliffs. The island was completely covered by the forest. Over the years, a lot of spirit herbs and secret medicines had grown in this dense forest. The two former island lords had left a map of the fallen mystic realm that they had drawn themselves. However, they obviously could not go deep into the fallen mystic realm. Instead, the map of the sea around Tingtao Island was very detailed. The map in Lu Ping's hand was the opposite. The periphery only pointed to a general direction, but after reaching the middle part of the fallen mystic realm, the description became more detailed. Therefore, Lu Ping had always suspected that the leading cultivator had been taken to the middle part of the fallen mystic realm first, and then he accidentally discovered the secret place with the 100 Blossoms evil chi. Therefore, the map became more detailed when it reached the middle part of the fallen mystic realm. After comparing the two maps, Lu Ping could also confirm that the secret place was on an island occupied by the Three Families Alliance in the middle part of the fallen mystic realm. This also made Lu Ping almost certain that the Three Families Alliance had something to do with the Zhang, Wang, and Li families on the island. In the blink of an eye, the day of offering arrived. The envoys sent by the Three Families Alliance were 3 late blood condensation cultivators. One of them was none other than the Li family's innkeeper, Li family's innkeeper. Lu Ping did not expect Li family's innkeeper to have broken through to the late blood condensation realm. However, judging from the aura around Li family's body, Lu Ping could tell that Li family had used a secret technique to break through to the late blood condensation realm. Lu Ping wore a red mask and the mirage robe. He also used the spirit concealment technique to hide his cultivation. Naturally, he was not afraid of being recognized. Lu Ping used the wealth of the two former island lords and the islands produced to easily gather enough offerings to send the 3 envoys away. After the 3 envoys left, Wu Yan reported to Lu Ping worriedly, "Island Lord, originally, outsiders did not know that you became the Island Lord. But this time, with the arrival of the 3 envoys, the news of Tingtao Island's change of Island Lord will definitely spread. At that time, I'm afraid that there will be people who covet our island and come to provoke us." Lu Ping smiled, turned around, and entered the cave dwelling. These days, Lu Ping had secretly found 5 places with spiritual energy on the island through Debao. Then, he led the people on the island to open up these spiritual lands and plant spiritual grains. During this process, under Lu Ping's guidance, a large number of spiritual grasses were harvested. At the same time, Lu Ping also divided the cave dwelling into 2 layers, allowing blood condensation cultivators to use the spiritual vein to cultivate on the outer layer. When he had free time, he would also give some pointers to the people on the island. These methods won the approval and gratitude of the people on the island towards Lu Ping's ability. With Lu Ping's current level of knowledge and experience in cultivation, he naturally wasn't someone these rogue cultivators could compare to. With just a few words of advice, the crowd felt enlightened. Hence, they all began to acknowledge and protect this new island lord. Outside Soundwave Island, 3 envoys from the Three Family Alliance were flying towards the next island. "Brother Zhang, I didn't expect this Twin Heroes Island to have a new island lord. The previous Lu Guowei and Lu Guowei brothers seem to have fallen. I heard that Brother Zhang had a good relationship with these 2 brothers. Don't you want to avenge your old friend?" "Brother Wang, you're exaggerating. The secret zone has its own rules, and I wouldn't dare to break them. The Lu brothers fawned over me only for the sake of a spirit vein on this island. I heard that the 2 brothers possess a secret technique that can shorten the time it takes for a spirit vein to mature. I'm afraid there's already a spirit vein on this island. It must be this spirit vein that brought the Lu brothers a fatal disaster," said Elder Wang with a smile. "Heh, I wonder what would happen if we spread this news? Not a bad idea. In any case, the Lu brothers did fawn on me before. If we can make some fun out of it, it'll be worthy of the gifts they gave us. Hee hee. Head shopkeeper Lee laughed bitterly to the side. It was obvious that he had been completely ignored by these two geniuses of the two clans. Chapter 231. Currently, Lu Ping had no idea that he had fallen into someone's trap with just a few words. At this moment, he was having a headache over how to avoid the patrols of the Three Families Alliance and enter the middle level of the secret realm. After all, the Three Families Alliance had three core forging enlightened masters. The next day, Lu Ping, who was still in a meditative state, was awakened by a loud rumble on the island. Wu Yin had already rushed over to report that the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord, who was also under the Three Families Alliance, had come looking for him. This Scarlet Shadow Island Lord is at the 9th layer of the Blood Condensation Realm, and his 4 Vajra subordinates have also reached the late Blood Condensation Realm. Among the 27 islands, his forces are considered to be among the strongest. Previously, he had some dealings with the 2 previous island lords, but this time, it's obvious that he has come with ill intentions. Wu Yin followed Lu Ping out while explaining the situation of the newcomer to Lu Ping. The Scarlet Shadow Island Lord was a burly man with a curly beard. When he saw Lu Ping, he laughed strangely and said, "So, it's a weak youth. Are you the one who killed my 2 Lu brothers? Brat, every grievance has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. This island lord will not make things difficult for you. I heard that there is a spirit vein left behind by my 2 Lu brothers in your cave abode. They were pitiful men with no children, so only I, as their brother, can inherit their inheritance. Other than that spirit vein, you can casually hand over 100,000 spirit stones, and this matter will be considered settled." As soon as the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord finished speaking, the dozen or so blood condensation cultivators who followed him started to clamor, demanding Lu Ping to hand over the spirit stones and spirit vein. For a moment, they became arrogant. On the other hand, the 7 blood condensation cultivators behind Lu Ping were cowering behind Lu Ping, but they maintained a certain distance from Lu Ping, as if they were trying to express something. Lu Ping didn't mind. After all, it was difficult to win over these people's loyalty in just 2 to 3 months. Lu Ping looked at the Scarlet Shadow Island people who were flaunting their strength not far away and smiled faintly. "This little brother is the new island lord. I was originally planning to visit your residences, but I didn't expect the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord to come here on your own accord. I wonder if the Island Lord has brought a gift to congratulate me on inheriting the position of Island Lord?" Lu Ping spoke slowly, but his words were clearly audible in the midst of the clamor from the Scarlet Shadow Island people. When the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord heard Lu Ping's words, his smile froze. He pointed at Lu Ping and scolded, "Brat, you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Fine, since you aren't willing to hand it over, then we can only take it ourselves. Everyone, let's attack together and occupy this island. From now on, our Scarlet Shadow Island will have the power of 2 islands. This Scarlet Shadow Island Lord might look like a brute, but to be able to survive in this mystic realm, he had to be quite meticulous. Since Lu Ping was able to kill the Lu brothers, then his strength was definitely not any weaker than his. The Scarlet Shadow Island Lord still had the 4 Vajra warriors under him, and these 4 were late blood condensation cultivators. Naturally, they wouldn't fight Lu Ping alone. When Lu Ping saw the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord charging at him, he calmly drew his Qinghan sword and stabbed out 5 times in a row. Each sword turned into 9 rays of sword light, forming the 9 palaces array formation, which surrounded the 5 late blood condensation cultivators. Sword intent, this is sword intent. The 4 Vajra warriors cried out in shock. They used all their techniques to defend against the 9 rays of sword light. Only the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord was shocked, and he quickly retreated. Not only did he know that this was a sword intent level sword technique, but he also knew that the 9 rays of sword light had already reached the level of spirit linking. Not only did this person comprehend the intent of swordsmanship, but he also had a deep understanding of it. The 4 Vajra warriors used all their techniques and finally managed to protect themselves from the 9 rays of sword light. However, they were in a sorry state. Their hair was disheveled, their robes were ruined, and their clothes were stained with blood. The Scarlet Shadow Island Lord reacted quickly, and he was at the peak of the ninth blood condensation realm. It wasn't too difficult for him to block Lu Ping's 9 rays of sword light. However, the profound arcane energy contained in Lu Ping's sword light forced the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord to retreat again and again. The Scarlet Shadow Island Lord knew how powerful Lu Ping was. He wanted to say something, but Lu Ping didn't give him the chance. Countless streams of water formed a tight water net in midair, trapping the 5 Vajra warriors. Lu Ping brandished his Qinghan sword, and hundreds of rays of sword light shot out, attacking the 5 Vajra warriors. "Array!" The Scarlet Shadow Island Lord shouted. The 5 Vajra warriors stood in position and formed a simple 5 elements array. Then, they combined their strength to cast a spell, forming an endless 5-colored light disk that blocked all of Lu Ping's sword light. Lu Ping's face turned solemn. He swung his Qinghan sword and executed the Raging Waves Crashing Shore sword art. With just one strike, hundreds of rays of sword light turned into 6 huge waves that rushed towards the 5-colored light disk. The 5-colored light disk trembled. Clearly, the 5 late blood condensation realm cultivators knew that this sword light was not easy to block. The 5 late blood condensation realm cultivators unleashed their full strength. The 3 sword waves forced the 5-colored light disk to retreat. The 5-colored light disk lost a great deal of its spiritual light. The 4th sword wave rushed towards the 5-colored light disk, and the 5-colored light disk shook. A crisp sound could be heard as more cracks appeared on the light disk. Then, the 5th sword wave smashed the 5-colored light disk into smithereens. The 5 elements array was broken, and blood flowed from their mouths and noses. The 5 elements array was broken. Seeing that the 6th sword wave was about to reach them, and the surrounding water net was getting denser, the 4 Vajra warriors hurriedly took out their magic tools to block the attack. Only the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord saw that the situation was not good, and he shouted, "I surrender. Please show mercy." Lu Ping did not expect the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord to have such a change of heart. Fortunately, Lu Ping's swordsmanship had improved by leaps and bounds, and his control of the sword had become even better. With a wave of his hand, the 6th sword wave was dispelled. Seeing that Lu Ping easily dispelled the cold sword wave, the ashen-faced 4 Vajra warriors heaved a sigh of relief. They turned to look at the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord behind them. At this moment, the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord no longer looked as arrogant as before. He was drenched in sweat, and his face was pale. Panting, he said, "No more fighting. The entire Scarlet Shadow Island is willing to serve you as our master. We surrender. We just want to keep our lives." With the lesson from the Lu brothers, Lu Ping maintained his vigilance as he looked at the 5 Vajra warriors. The azure sword hovered above his head. The tip of the sword pointed at the 5 Vajra warriors. He said, "Island Lord, why do you say that? If I'm not wrong, Island Lord still has a trump card that you haven't used yet. Why would you surrender so easily?" The Scarlet Shadow Island Lord sat on the ground, and without a care for his image, he scolded, "I'm just unlucky to have met a freak like you. You're only at the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm, and you can beat the 5 of us like a child. I do have a trump card, but do you think you don't have one? Let's not talk about other things. After fighting for so long, all 5 of us have lost a lot of energy, but you're still full of energy. We can't beat you, and we can't escape either. What should we do if we don't surrender? Are you really only at the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm?" When the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord's subordinates heard that their Island Lord was surrendering, some of them thought that it was a delaying tactic, while others were indignant. Just as they were about to step forward to persuade their Island Lord, the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord raised his hand and stopped them. Only after hearing the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord's words did they fall silent. Lu Ping naturally wouldn't let the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord's flattery get to his head. He chuckled lightly and pointed at the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord. 2 blood jade needles that Lu Ping had sent to the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord's neck using the formless sword art appeared. With a whoosh, the Scarlet Shadow Island Lord jumped to the side in fright. He looked at Lu Ping in horror. Lu Ping said, "You're right. I can easily kill the 5 of you. How can I believe that you want to surrender?" Chapter 232. On the southeast side of the island was a stone slope with a circumference of several miles. There were some vines growing sparsely on the stone slope. Lu Ping was carefully searching for something on the stone slope. From time to time, he would sweep it with his divine sense, trying to find some clues, but to no avail. Just then, two naturally raised boulders on the stone slope not far away attracted Lu Ping's attention. Lu Ping swept the ground between the two boulders with his divine sense, but found nothing. Lu Ping walked over and pushed away the vines on the ground, revealing a slanted crack below. This crack could barely allow one person to pass through sideways. He did not know what the rocks on both sides of the crack were, but they could actually prevent Lu Ping's divine sense from perceiving the existence of this crack. Lu Ping couldn't be bothered to examine the rocks anymore. He turned sideways and entered the crack. After some thought, he didn't cover the crack with the vines. Instead, he purposely left the crack open so that the cultivators standing on the slope could see it at a glance. This crack went dozens of feet deep into the stone slope, and there were several turns in the middle. It was unknown how the leading cultivator at that time found such a secret place. Lu Ping patiently passed through the crack, and his vision, which had been dim before, suddenly brightened. A strong fragrance of flowers had monopolized Lu Ping's sense of smell, and then a colorful land shrouded in a pink mist occupied Lu Ping's vision. It was a sea of flowers. All kinds of plants were blooming with flowers of different colors. At the same time, a faint pink mist rose from nowhere, permeating this large space of beautiful plants. And in this lingering pink mist, from time to time, there were traces of black chi playing in it. This was the secret place where the 100 Flowers evil spirit was born, and the black mist in it was the highly poisonous 100 Flowers miasma. He had to speed up. Wang Yishan, senior martial brother Qi, and the others behind him would soon find this place. Lu Ping himself was only able to walk ahead of the others by relying on the map. Moreover, in order not to let others notice the rocks on both sides of the crack, Lu Ping deliberately pushed away the vines hiding the crack. The 100 Flowers evil spirit and the 100 Flowers miasma grew together. The 100 Flowers evil spirit was used by cultivators to condense wood gang chi, while the 100 Flowers miasma was the opposite. Without a certain method to separate the two, cultivators could only look at the 100 Flowers evil spirit in front of them and sigh. Lu Ping didn't need the 100 Flower slaughter chi to condense his energy, and the 100 Flower miasma couldn't stop him from venturing deeper into the land of flowers. Then, as if he had thought of something, he smiled and said, "How could I forget about them?" Stretching out a finger, the 1,000-bell millet seemed to have released a restriction. Suddenly, more than 200 purple bees the size of a thumb rushed out from inside, scrambling to be the first to fly into the surrounding sea of flowers. These were the hundreds of purple crystal bee eggs that Lu Ping obtained from AI Shutao in the 7-star sky. The bee eggs had long been hatched by Lu Ping. During this time, once Lu Ping settled down, he would release them out to visit flowers and collect honey. When the purple crystal bees had not reached the mature stage, compared with the ordinary demonic bees, there was nothing special about them other than their slightly larger size. Therefore, Lu Ping was not afraid of being recognized by someone. However, the brewing requirements for purple crystal honey were quite high. At least, the purple crystal bees needed to collect nectar from flowers and plants that were more than 100 years old. Moreover, this was also a kind of cultivation process for the purple crystal bees. However, in the past 2 years, Lu Ping had been running around and rarely had a long time to settle down. Therefore, this group of demonic bees was not successful. Until now, they had not advanced to the first layer of blood refining realm. At this time, Lu Ping went deep into the land of 100 Flowers. The fragrance of flowers filled the air. Flowers and plants that were more than 100 years old were common. Lu Ping even found a lot of spirit herbs. However, because he was looking for a possible treasure, he did not have the time to collect them. However, when Lu Ping opened the 1,000-bell millet, this group of purple crystal bees found an opportunity. After Lu Ping released the restriction on the 1,000-bell millet, they all flew towards the sea of flowers. The purple crystal bees fed on nectar and collected the spirits of the flowers. Naturally, they ignored the baleful aura and miasma of the flowers. After a while, the purple crystal bees began to fly back. Not long after, hundreds of purple crystal bees went in and out of the 1,000-bell millet above Lu Ping's head. Lu Ping discovered that every time the purple crystal bees went in and out, the faint demonic aura around their bodies became thicker. If there was enough time, it would not be a problem to raise these 200 purple crystal bees to the first layer of blood-refining realm. At this moment, in the thick fog ahead, the vague shadow of a huge tree appeared. This huge tree was particularly outstanding among the plants in the land of 100 flowers. "This is it," Lu Ping said happily. Chapter 233. On the southeast side of the island was a stone slope with a circumference of several miles. There were some vines growing sparsely on the stone slope. Lu Ping was carefully searching for something on the stone slope. From time to time, he would sweep it with his divine sense, trying to find some clues, but to no avail. Just then, two naturally raised boulders on the stone slope not far away attracted Lu Ping's attention. Lu Ping swept the ground between the two boulders with his divine sense, but found nothing. Lu Ping walked over and pushed away the vines on the ground, revealing a slanted crack below. This crack could barely allow a person to pass through sideways. He did not know what the rocks on both sides of the crack were, but they could actually prevent Lu Ping's divine sense from perceiving the existence of this crack. Lu Ping did not have time to check these rocks, but entered the crack sideways. After thinking about it, he did not cover the crack with the vines again, but deliberately exposed the crack so that the cultivators standing on the stone slope could see it at a glance. This crack went dozens of feet deep into the stone slope, and there were several turns in the middle. It was unknown how the leading cultivator at that time found such a secret place. Lu Ping patiently passed through the crack, and his vision, which had been dim before, suddenly brightened. A strong fragrance of flowers had monopolized Lu Ping's sense of smell, and then a colorful land shrouded in a pink mist occupied Lu Ping's vision. It was a sea of flowers. All kinds of plants were blooming with flowers of different colors. At the same time, a faint pink mist rose from nowhere, permeating this large space of beautiful plants. And in this lingering pink mist, from time to time, there were traces of black chi playing in it. This was the secret place where the 100 Flowers evil spirit was born, and the black mist in it was the highly poisonous 100 Flowers miasma. He had to speed up. Wang Yishan, senior martial brother Qi, and the others behind him would soon find this place. Lu Ping himself was only able to walk ahead of the others by relying on the map. Moreover, in order not to let others notice the rocks on both sides of the crack, Lu Ping deliberately pushed away the vines hiding the crack. The 100 Flowers evil spirit and the 100 Flowers miasma grew together. The 100 Flowers evil spirit was the best material for cultivators to condense wood property gang qi, while the 100 Flowers miasma was the opposite. Without a certain method to separate the two, cultivators could only look at the 100 Flowers evil spirit in front of them and sigh. Lu Ping could not use the 100 Flowers evil spirit to condense gang qi, and the 100 Flowers miasma could not stop Lu Ping from entering this land of flowers. On the contrary, the 100 Flowers miasma was formed by the poison of flowers over a long time, which was a great supplement for the myriad poison meteoric power. Lu Ping propped up the golden-colored myriad poison meteoric power to immediately push away the pink mist. Then, he quickly moved deeper into the land of flowers. The moment the strands of black miasma made contact with the golden-colored myriad poison meteoric power, they would slowly be devoured. As Lu Ping moved deeper into the land of flowers, the pink mist grew thicker and the 100 Flowers miasma grew thicker. Gradually, the pink mist was dyed with a layer of enchanting black gray. However, Lu Ping's footsteps did not slow down in the slightest. On the contrary, the golden-colored myriad poison spirit grew brighter. With a thought, Lu Ping opened the 1,000-bell millet. The golden myriad poison spirit liquid in the blue stone vat immediately became restless. A fist-sized colorless liquid floated up from the golden myriad poison spirit liquid and circled around the bluestone vat. The black miasma hidden in the pink 100 flowers evil spirit liquid seemed to be attracted. Wisps of it separated from the mist and gathered towards the 1,000-bell millet. It slowly formed a small black cloud above the bluestone vat. The black cloud grew thicker and thicker. From a distance, it looked like a dark cloud that was about to rain. Lu Ping was overjoyed. He took out a mid-grade bottle-shaped magic tool. This magic tool was something Lu Ping obtained when he was in the blood-refining realm. Normally, he used it to water the spirit grasses and spirit trees in the 1,000-bell millet. Later, Lu Ping asked second senior Sister Li Xuanru for some firmament stone powder to upgrade Chen Lian to a mid-grade magic tool. The space inside was more than doubled. Lu Ping cast a few hand seals at the mystic instrument. The 100-flower miasma in the surroundings was immediately drawn into the mystic instrument by the myriad poison syrup. The miasma was the best kind of miasma for wood elemental cultivators to condense their energy into. In fact, Lu Ping could also use his own astral energy to collect and refine the 100 flowers evil spirit liquid. However, the speed was obviously not comparable to the myriad poison spirit liquid and the nameless spirit water. Moreover, Lu Ping was racing against time. He could not afford to waste time. The 1,000-bell millet and the jade bottle were suspended above Lu Ping's head. They followed Lu Ping as he walked through the mist of the land of 100 flowers. However, Lu Ping did not put his mind on collecting the 100 flowers evil spirit liquid and the 100 flowers evil spirit liquid. Instead, he seemed to be looking for something. At this moment, a buzzing sound came from the 1,000-bell millet above Lu Ping's head. Lu Ping was stunned for a moment. Then, as if remembering something, he smiled and said, "How could I forget about them?" Chapter 234. This was a huge tree that was twice the height of an ordinary peach tree. The entire tree crown covered an area of 7 to 8 feet. The crown was divided into 3 distinct layers. The bottom layer was hidden by the branches and leaves, revealing 18 huge peaches the size of a human head. The middle layer was filled with strange pink peach blossoms, and at the top, there were hundreds of pink flower buds that were about to bloom. Just as Lu Ping was about to approach, 3 peach branches fell from the tree, and then strangely flew towards Lu Ping. Just when Lu Ping didn't know what was going on, these 3 branches came smashing towards Lu Ping. At this time, Lu Ping realized that these 3 peach branches actually had a faint demonic spiritual force. Peach tree turned into a demon. This peach tree actually cultivated into a demon. In the demon race, the most difficult thing to cultivate are plants, trees, bamboo, and stones. Even the 7th patriarch didn't leave behind many systematic cultivation techniques for these demons. Therefore, the majority of plants, trees, bamboo, and stones can only instinctively accumulate the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Often, before they can awaken, they would be refined by cultivators into pills, magic tools, and other items to aid in cultivation. Therefore, plants, trees, bamboo, and stones are the most difficult to cultivate. Even if they cultivate into a demon, becoming a demon, their strength is usually weak, and most of them are at the mercy of others. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ping grabbed the 3 peach branches in his hand. He shook off the trace of demonic spiritual force contained within them and continued to walk towards the peach tree. Another 5 peach branches fell from the tree and once again smashed towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It seems that this peach tree demon only cultivated and awakened on its own and doesn't know any cultivation techniques. This method of using peach branches to hit people must be something that it figured out on its own. Lu Ping once again grabbed the 5 peach branches in his hand. This time, one of the branches suddenly exploded with demonic spiritual force and almost broke free from Lu Ping's hand. What a clever peach blossom tree demon. It actually knows how to use this method to attack me. It almost broke free from my grip. Lu Ping looked at the special branch in his hand and realized that its spirituality was hidden. It was different from the other branches. It was a mutated 1,000-year peach tree branch. 2nd grade spiritual material. There were generally 3 ways for plants, trees, bamboo, and rocks to cultivate into a demon. The first way was to be enlightened by an expert, and be taught the way of cultivation. The second way was to be bestowed with spirituality by a spirit object of heaven and earth, awakening the spirituality and knowing how to cultivate on its own. The third way was the most difficult. It required the plants, trees, bamboo, and rocks to rely on their instincts to accumulate spiritual energy over a long period of time and awaken on their own. It usually took thousands of years, and no accidents could happen during the process. Lu Ping had originally thought that this peach blossom tree demon had awakened on its own in this sealed place and belonged to the third scenario. However, this mutated peach blossom tree demon clearly showed that this peach blossom tree demon had been nourished by a spirit object for a long period of time, and only then did it give birth to spirituality. This peach blossom tree demon had a spirit treasure. Lu Ping's spirit rose from head to toe, and he quickly walked towards the peach tree. At this time, the peach blossom tree demon seemed to have sensed the danger, and its entire crown began to tremble. The leaves rustled as if a baby was crying helplessly. A feeling of fear and sorrow suddenly spread out. 3 bright red peaches fell from the tree and slowly flew towards Lu Ping. This helpless feeling of begging Lu Ping to let it go was sensed by Lu Ping's divine sense. Lu Ping finally arrived in front of the peach tree. He took the 3 peaches and looked at the first branch of the peach tree. He saw a protrusion half a foot in size growing out of the branch. At first glance, it looked like a thick piece of bark. Psychic wood. It was actually a low-tier Earth-class psychic wood. No wonder this peach tree was only 1,000 years old, but it was able to awaken its spirit light and turn into a monster. This psychic wood was the best at enlightening monsters. To grass, wood, bamboo, and stone, a low-tier Earth-class psychic wood was even more precious than a heaven-class spirit treasure. The peach blossom tree demon was still trembling, and Lu Ping's mischievous heart was aroused. He purposely reached out and patted the trunk of the peach tree. The peach blossom tree demon shook even more violently, and the peach petals began to fall. Lu Ping's joking heart was over, and he used his divine sense to explore the peach tree. He immediately found a spirit light hiding in the trunk, playing hide and seek with Lu Ping. With Lu Ping's powerful divine sense, he was able to block this spirit light in an instant. At the same time, he sent out a kind message to comfort this spirit light that was a bit scattered due to fear. At the same time, he sent out all kinds of positive and friendly messages to the spirit light through his divine sense. It was unknown what Lu Ping said to the peach blossom tree demon, but after about the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Lu Ping's palm finally left the trunk. Then he placed the 1,000-bell millet on the ground, and the entire 1,000-bell millet suddenly expanded into a huge spirit herb garden. Lu Ping took out Debeo from the spirit beast bag and had it drill into the ground to help him cast spells. Debeo, who was proficient in earth spells, was a great help at this moment. With a loud rumble, the entire land of 100 flowers trembled. Lu Ping and Debeo lifted the entire peach tree, along with the soil underneath it, and placed it into the Qianzhong millet. Almost half of the space inside the 1,000-bell millet was occupied by the crown of the peach tree. Compared to it, the golden nut fruit tree was like a dwarf under a giant. Debeo tried its best to climb out of the big hole created by the transplanted peach tree. Then, it laid on the ground and didn't want to move at all. Lu Ping grabbed Debeo's beard and lifted it up. Debeo squeaked in pain, but Lu Ping ignored it and said, "Look, I've only done this much, and my magic power is already used up. It seems like the special training last time didn't work very well." Debeo looked at the big hole that was 70 feet deep and more than 100 feet wide. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Shouldn't his magic power be used up after such a big relocation project? Thinking of the 3 snakes and the big bird's mocking expressions, Debeo felt that his life as a mouse suddenly became bleak. Lu Ping didn't know what method he used to trick the peach tree demon into settling down in the 1,000-bell millet, but this kind of relocation clearly hurt the peach tree demon's vitality. Lu Ping took out 81 middle-grade spirit stones and set up a spirit gathering formation at the root of the peach tree. Then, he crushed a 3-transformation spirit pill and melted it into a crystal bowl. Then, he used the art of traveling clouds and summoning rain. The water in the crystal bowl drizzled on the peach tree demon's head, and the wilted peach tree demon looked a lot more spirited. At this time, Lu Ping didn't care about the 3 transformation spirit pill. In his eyes, the peach tree demon was only left with the earth grade spirit tree demon psychic wood, as well as the whole peach tree's 1,000-year mutated peach branch and the 18 bright red peaches. Chapter 235. At this time, Lu Ping finally had the time to turn around and carefully identify the spirit grasses among the flowers and trees. However, there were quite a lot of spirit grasses. Lu Ping basically ignored the 100-year-old spirit grasses and only focused on the 500-year-old spirit grasses. In a short while, Lu Ping found more than 20 spirit grasses and even found a 1,000-year-old spirit grass. Just as Lu Ping carefully collected this 1,000-year-old spirit grass and placed it in a jade box, the small black cloud above the bluestone jar inside the 1,000-bell millet finally turned into nearly 100 drops of black water beads, which fell into the bluestone jar. The golden myriad poison liquid was dyed with a layer of faint black, and the entire myriad poison liquid turned dark gold. After the 100 flowers miasma turned into myriad poison liquid, the colorless liquid floating above the bluestone jar seemed to lose interest in the 100 flowers miasma outside, and plunged into the myriad poison liquid. At this time, Lu Ping discovered that within a radius of more than 1,000 feet around him, the originally thick pink mist had disappeared. In the entire misty sea of flowers, a huge, clear circle had suddenly appeared. Then, the surrounding mist descended like a curtain of heavenly river from the sky, and fiercely rushed towards Lu Ping, once again submerging Lu Ping in the mist. However, Lu Ping could clearly feel that the mist of the entire sea of flowers had thinned a lot. The original bright red scene formed by the gathering of the pink mist could no longer be seen. It could be said that most of the 100 flowers' spirit essence in the thick mist of this sea of flowers had been collected by Lu Ping in a jade bottle when he extracted the 100 flowers miasma with the help of the nameless spirit water. Lu Ping shook the jade bottle in his hand. There were about 300 drops of 100 flowers spirit essence condensed by the 100 flowers spirit essence. Although it had condensed into a liquid form, it was still a strange object of the wood attribute, so Lu Ping could only put it away. Just as Lu Ping was about to continue looking for more spirit grasses in the sea of flowers, a thought suddenly flashed in his mind, and Lu Ping's eyebrows gradually wrinkled. No, the peach blossom demon is not the king of flowers in the sea of flowers. The place where the 100-flower fiendish aura gathered was definitely a sea of flowers, and in this sea of flowers, a 100-flower king would often be born. This king of flowers was nurtured by the spiritual essence of the entire sea of flowers. It was the highest quality spirit herb or spirit material in the sea of flowers. It was also the plant that had the highest chance of cultivating into a demon. After Lu Ping learned the true location of the land of 100 flowers from the leading cultivator, other than the 100-flower fiend, he also came for the flower king in the land of 100 flowers. Therefore, even though Lu Ping accidentally bumped into Wang Yishan and the others and heard that the core forging enlightened masters might arrive soon, he still rushed into the sea of flowers without hesitation. When Lu Ping saw the peach tree demon, Lu Ping naturally thought that the peach tree demon was the flower king of the entire sea of flowers. This was because the peach tree demon not only had the psychic wood and the mutated 1,000-year peach tree branch, but most importantly, it had awakened its spirit light and cultivated into a demon. However, Lu Ping forgot the most important thing, the bell spirit chi. The flower king had to gather the power of the entire sea of flowers and add its essence to its body. The essence of the flowers was called the bell spirit chi, but the peach tree demon did not have this. The peach tree demon was only able to become a demon because it happened to have a piece of spiritual wood in its body. However, the entire sea of flowers did not help it at all. In other words, the peach tree demon was not loved by the sea of flowers. Lu Ping's eyes lit up, and he finally understood. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. A piercingly cold killing intent rushed towards Lu Ping's back. Lu Ping's expression stiffened, but he couldn't dodge in time. He had no choice but to shield himself with his Tian protective aura and take the blow head-on. Pooh! A heavy blow came from behind Lu Ping. Lu Ping felt a tightness in his chest. He had no choice but to stagger forward a few steps to free himself from that irritating feeling. The fog formed by the 100 flowers fiend weakened a cultivator's divine sense. Just now, Lu Ping was so focused on the Flower King that he forgot to be vigilant of his surroundings. He didn't expect to be ambushed by someone else. At this moment, the ambushers couldn't be anyone else. Lu Ping turned around and saw Wang Yishan's group of 5 standing in the distance. The weapon that attacked Lu Ping was a top-grade mystic instrument. It was a full-powered strike from a peak blood condensation realm cultivator. Even if Lu Ping cast the Een Sky in time, he wouldn't be able to unleash its full power. Lu Ping had been using Qianzhong Millet, a huge spatial magic artifact. Just now, he had used up a lot of his arcane energy to move the 1,000-year tree demon and the soil under its feet into the Qianzhong Millet. Lu Ping looked at them and coughed. His abdomen was shaking violently. Although it didn't cause any serious internal injuries, it made it hard for Lu Ping to control his arcane energy. Wang Yishan, who attacked Lu Ping, was even more shocked. He didn't think that a blood condensation cultivator would be able to stand in front of him unscathed after taking a full blow from him. He was so frightened that he didn't dare to continue attacking. It was Senior Brother Qi from the Crystal Palace who noticed that Lu Ping was trying to stall for time. He quickly said, "He's injured. He's trying to stall for time. Everyone, attack together. Don't give him time to recover." Everyone snapped out of their daze and took out their magic artifacts. A total of 5 top-grade magic artifacts flew towards Lu Ping. Careless, Lu Ping should have known that he was in danger and prepared a way out for himself. However, he forgot to conserve his arcane energy because of the 100-flower fiend and the peach tree demon's harvest. Lu Ping was indeed trying to stall for time, but he wasn't injured. Seeing that the 5 of them were attacking together, Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. He had no choice but to dodge. All 5 of them were at the peak of the blood condensation realm, especially the 3 disciples from the Crystal Palace in silver robes. None of them were weaker than the North Sea's 18 generals. This surprised Lu Ping. The 3 peak blood condensation cultivators were as strong as the most elite peak blood condensation cultivators of the North Sea's major sections. If he was at his peak, Lu Ping wouldn't be afraid of the 5 of them. But now, he couldn't. Not only was Lu Ping's arcane energy depleted, but if he was in a stalemate with the 5 of them, a core-forging enlightened master could arrive at any time. At that time, only death would await Lu Ping. Lu Ping split his sword into 5 sword rays and blocked all the incoming magic artifacts. In a flash, he retreated into the thick fog behind him. "He's running away. Quick, chase him. Be careful. We're in the depths of the 100 Flowers Fiend. The 100 Flowers Fiend's miasma has already corroded our protective arcane energy. This person is not weak. Don't split up." Lu Ping's divine sense was stronger than the 5 of them, and there were many obstacles in the sea of flowers. Therefore, Lu Ping easily shook off the 5 of them. Lu Ping stood far away from them. He was the only one who could observe them, but they couldn't detect Lu Ping's presence. Senior Martial Brother Qi said, "We just need to guard this place and wait for Enlightened Master Wang Hua to arrive. I'm sure he won't be able to break through our defenses. While he's gone, I can condense the 100-flower fiendish energy. Although the 100-flower fiendish energy here isn't strong, it should be enough to condense my astral energy." Lu Ping saw that Senior Brother Qi began to slowly absorb the 100 Flowers fiend that had been plundered by Lu Ping. He smiled coldly and thought for a while. Then, he turned around and walked toward the unexplored area in the Sea of Flowers. After a few steps, Lu Ping patted his head and released Debeo from the spirit beast bag again. At this time, Debeo had eaten the recovery elixir, and his arcane energy had recovered a lot. Naturally, he knew why Lu Ping released him. He walked around Lu Ping and sniffed in all directions. Then, he went toward the direction where Debeo could feel the strongest spiritual power fluctuation. After a while, Lu Ping was speechless and picked up a 1,000-year-old spirit herb on the ground. Debeo immediately came forward to show his achievement. Lu Ping pulled his beard and scolded, "You fool! I told you to find the King of Flowers, but you found a 1,000-year-old spirit herb. Lu Ping also knew that he couldn't blame Debeo. Debeo was a spirit-seeking mouse. He could only respond to the closest and strongest spiritual power fluctuation. The King of Flowers might have a strong spiritual power fluctuation, but it was obviously not close. Lu Ping had no choice but to throw a newly refined gourmet pill into Debeo's mouth. Debeo was a glutton and always remembered to ask for rewards. Since he couldn't eat too many pills, Lu Ping found a pill recipe and refined some gourmet pills to satisfy his cravings. Under Debeo's lead, Lu Ping collected 8 spirit herbs in a row. All of them were at least 1,000 years old. 2 of them were used as the main ingredients. It seemed that after Debeo advanced to the mid-stage blood condensation realm, his spirit-seeking ability had greatly improved. At this moment, Debeo suddenly called out to Lu Ping and ran in a certain direction. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly followed. However, after walking for about 100 feet, a strong spiritual power fluctuation was detected even by Lu Ping's divine sense. Lu Ping quickened his pace, and the scene before him suddenly opened up. This was a place that was not covered by the 100 Flowers fog. The pink 100 Flowers fog formed a vertical fog wall that surrounded this place. It seemed to be protecting something in the middle. Lu Ping looked up. In the middle of the clearing, there was a sparkling white lotus blooming brilliantly on a small pool of water. It was as if it was the center of all the flowers in the surroundings. It was the undisputed king of this sea of flowers. A 9th grade white lotus. Lu Ping used his divine sense to scan it. It was actually a 9th grade white lotus. This was the true king of flowers in the land of 100 flowers. Lotus was a special existence among spiritual materials. Other than being categorized according to the grade of the spiritual material, they were also categorized into 9 grades. Generally speaking, the lotus was categorized into 3 grades and 9 grades. The first grade was limited to 30 years, from a 1st grade white lotus in 30 years to a 3rd grade white lotus in 90 years. The second grade was limited to 300 years, all the way to a 6th grade white lotus in 900 years. Similarly, the 3rd grade was limited to 3,000 years, and the highest 9th grade white lotus required 9,000 years. How could this be possible? Once a lotus reached the 2nd grade, it was already considered a high-grade spiritual material. Once it reached the 3rd grade, its value would no longer be lower than any 3rd grade spiritual material, let alone a 9th grade white lotus. The value of this lotus was no less than the Na Chuan cauldron. Lu Ping tried his best to suppress the excitement in his heart. Chapter 236. Beside the lotus was a lotus head. This was the lotus head of a 9th grade lotus. The lotus seeds inside could probably be used to refine pills for the Dharma manifestation stage. Lu Ping's face was full of greed. This was definitely a big harvest. The small pool where the 9th grade white lotus grew was a pool of Kuei water essence, which was the real treasure of the land of 100 flowers. He did not expect that it would turn into the essence of Kuei water to nourish this white lotus. No wonder it could reach the 9th grade. As long as this white lotus went one step further and reached the age of 10,000 years, it might be able to awaken a spiritual object like the peach tree demon and become a monster. But now this white lotus obviously had no chance. Lu Ping thought for a while and let Debeo dive into the ground again. With a loud bang, this pool of Kuei water essence and the 9th grade white lotus were moved by Lu Ping into the 1,000-bell millet. However, Lu Ping soon discovered that after leaving the land of 100 flowers, although there was still a small pool of Kuei water essence, the white lotus still looked dazzling, but the vitality of its whole body was greatly reduced. It seemed that this king of flowers could only grow in the land of 100 flowers. There might be some secret connection, but it was not something that Lu Ping could understand. At this moment, Lu Ping did not hesitate and directly picked up this 9th grade white jade lotus. After rummaging through the storage ring for a long time, he finally found a box made of chalcedony. This was also the harvest Lu Ping had on Failing Island. At the same time, there were 3 lotus leaves and 9 lotus seeds in the lotus head. In addition, there was a snow-white lotus root. Looking at this pool of Kuei water essence, It was obviously a waste to leave it here. Even if he used it to condense his second layer of gang qi, it was obviously not enough. Lu Ping thought for a while and threw the 3 lotus seeds into the pool. Hee, this might be another move that would make even Fa Xiang Laozu crazy. Lu Ping smiled and put the remaining 6 white jade lotus seeds into a jade quintessence bottle and put them together with the white jade lotus inside the jade quintessence box. This white jade lotus root was also not an ordinary item. Listening to Ji Zixuan's introduction, lotus roots that had entered the second stage were usually superior spiritual materials used to create puppets, and according to legend, lotus roots of the third stage could even be used to create avatars. This was an even more extraordinary existence. Lu Ping had once asked Ji Zixuan if he could create an avatar, but Ji Zixuan looked at Lu Ping with disdain. Even his teacher, Taoist Master Xuanhui, was unable to do so. Lu Ping had already decided to eat this lotus root. Indeed, he would eat it. Even if Ji Zixuan knew about this, he would definitely scold Lu Ping for being a wastrel. In addition to the above effects, the white jade lotus had another effect, which was to strengthen a cultivator's physical body. This was only the third stage, which was to say, a lotus root of the 7th stage and above would have this effect, and the effect of this 9th stage lotus root was even more unquestionable. Taoist Master Lu Xianling had once hinted to him the benefits of a cultivator's physical body, and he had also seen with his own eyes that his teacher even used his 12 golden nuts to extort his sex Laozu. Lu Ping vaguely knew that the strengthening of the physical body was definitely a vital advantage for a cultivator. In the past 2 to 3 years, Lu Ping had already refined all the golden nuts he obtained from the 7-star sky into golden resilience pills for consumption. The golden nut tree in the 1000-bell millet now only had a dozen unripe golden nuts left. With his current physical body, even without the protection of spiritual power, even a top-grade magic weapon might not be able to damage him. If he consumed this lotus root, Lu Ping was confident that his physical strength would be able to withstand the attack of a low-grade magic weapon without the protection of spiritual power. There was actually a miniature spirit vein under the pond. After Lu Ping moved the white jade lotus pond into the 1000-bell millet, the spiritual energy below dissipated. Lu Ping sensed it and actually had the strength of 3 or 4 miniature spirit veins. This was one of the conditions for the white jade lotus to reach the 9th stage. However, at this time, this spirit vein had already begun to dissipate. It seemed that the condensation of the spirit vein was more based on the natural instinct of the King of 100 Flowers. At this moment, there was clearly no time for Lu Ping to think about seizing this spirit vein. After Lu Ping took away the white jade lotus along with the lotus pond, Lu Ping vaguely sensed that something had happened in the land of 100 Flowers. The King of 100 Flowers was nurtured by the essence of the land of 100 Flowers. It was the core of the entire land of 100 Flowers. Now that the white jade lotus had been plucked by Lu Ping, the land of 100 Flowers had lost its king. The mist in the entire land of 100 Flowers immediately began to move in an orderly manner, as if it was gathering or choosing something. Lu Ping knew that the land of 100 Flowers was nurturing the King of 100 Flowers again. However, this was an extremely long process. It would probably take at least a few hundred years for the King of 100 Flowers to appear again. Moreover, the appearance of the King of 100 Flowers did not mean that it could reach the height of the white jade lotus. This process would probably take another few thousand years. At this moment, Senior Brother Qi's angry roar suddenly came from behind Lu Ping. What's going on? Why has the mist of the flowers become faint? The essence of the 100 Flowers' evil spirit has suddenly dispersed. What the hell is going on? Wang Yishan's voice rang out. Could this be the doing of the person in there? After a pause, Senior Brother Qi's voice rang out. Let's go in and get rid of that bastard first. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will be difficult for me to condense the 100 Flowers gang qi to completion. Send a sound transmission sword to urge Zhanren Wang Hua to come quickly. I don't think this land of 100 Flowers is simple. Who knows what other treasures there are inside? Senior Brother Qi's casual urging of his Zhanren obviously made Wang Yishan a little unhappy, but Wang Yishan's voice still rang out. Okay, they couldn't stay here any longer. Lu Ping opened his mouth and let out a strange cry. More than 200 purple crystal bees in the land of 100 flowers cheered and gathered toward the 1,000-bell millet. When Lu Ping saw that all the bees had returned, he looked happy. At this time, more than half of the more than 200 purple crystal bees had broken through to the first level of blood refining realm. This made Lu Ping feel a little incredulous. However, thinking that the land of 100 flowers could actually breed a flower king like the 9th-grade lotus flower, it was obvious that this place had not been discovered for at least thousands of years. The flowers inside were like brocade, and each flower had condensed the spiritual energy of dozens or even hundreds of years. When the purple crystal bees collected the nectar, they were also contaminated with the spiritual energy, so it was normal for them to have a breakthrough in their cultivation. Although the 100 flowers mist had weakened, Lu Ping could still hide his tracks at a distance of several tens of feet. Lu Ping took a big detour, intending to get rid of the 5 people from the other side. However, he didn't expect that the 5 people would come directly from the front. Obviously, they had already predicted that he would go this way. This time, it was Lu Ping who made the first move. Before Wang Yishan, senior martial brother Qi, and the others could praise him for his godlike foresight, Lu Ping's Qinghan sword had already cast the first move of the 1,000 snow piles sword skill, toppling mountains and overturning seas. Hundreds of snow-white sword rays formed into a ferocious wave that rushed towards the 5 of them. Just when Wang Yishan and the others combined their strength to block Lu Ping's sword, secretly shocked that Lu Ping was actually so powerful, a loud roar directly penetrated the land of 100 flowers, interrupting Lu Ping's continued attack. Jinli, don't go too far. This is the territory of us human cultivators. The overwhelming spiritual pressure of the core forging realm indicated the identity of the person who came. Enlightened Master Wang Hua, third uncle, senior brother Qi, Wang Yishan, and the others were elated. Enlightened Master Jinli. Lu Ping's expression changed. Chapter 237. Over the past 2 years, Taoist Master Jin Li's life had been truly miserable. On that day, he had repeatedly tried to kill Lu Ping but failed. Instead, Lu Ping had escaped to the Eastern Sea through a transmission array. Taoist Master Jin Li was a dignified core forging expert, yet he couldn't deal with a blood condensation minor repairs cultivator. Naturally, he became the laughing stock of the demon cultivators hidden within the beast tide. Taoist Master Jin Li flew into a rage out of humiliation and activated the transmission array to pursue and kill Lu Ping. However, he didn't expect that Lu Ping's transmission array would be destroyed first. Taoist Master Jin Li, who was in the middle of the transmission array, suffered this misfortune. When he was squeezed out of the spatial rift, he was already gravely injured. With no other choice, he could only hide in a cave at the bottom of the sea and recuperate in seclusion. Some time ago, Taoist Master Jin Li had fully recovered from his injuries and emerged from the sea. Before he could figure out where he was robbed by a group of human blood condensation cultivators. Taoist Master Jin Li had been forced into this state by Lu Ping and had nowhere to vent his anger. This group of cultivators had run into the muzzle of a spear and were easily killed by Taoist Master Jin Li. However, he hadn't expected that he would end up poking a hornet's nest. This group of cultivators belonged to a clan that belonged to the Crystal Palace. One of them was even a direct descendant of the clan. After receiving the news that a descendant of the clan had been killed by a core forging enlightened master, the 2 core forging enlightened masters of the clan had joined forces to take revenge. The 3 of them engaged in a fierce battle. Taoist Master Jin Li's second-layer core forging cultivation naturally couldn't compare to the combined strength of the 2 core forging enlightened masters. However, Taoist Master Jin Li was worthy of being called a genius among demon cultivators. He managed to escape from the hands of 2 human cultivators whose cultivation far surpassed his own. However, his identity as a demon cultivator could no longer be concealed. This was going to be fun. Although the fallen mystic realm was jointly occupied by humans and demons, there was a clear distinction between the territories of humans and demons. Both sides had always minded their own business. Now, a demon cultivator had actually run into the territory of human cultivators and was even shouting about killing them. What face did the human cultivators have left? For a time, immortal Master Li became the target of scorn in the human race's sphere of influence in the fallen mystery realm. He was constantly being hunted down. Fortunately, Taoist Master Li's strength wasn't weak, and his ability to escape was superb. If he could invite Taoist Master Kuan Shan to join forces with him, not to mention expelling this demon cultivator, even killing it would be a piece of cake. Taoist Wang Hua's wishful thinking didn't occur to him that he hadn't been able to shake off Taoist Li's pursuit. After Taoist Li came out of seclusion, he had been hunted down by core-forging enlightened masters. Even now, he didn't know where he was. With great difficulty, he finally encountered a soft persimmon. Naturally, Taoist Li wasn't willing to let him go. The ocean was his domain, so how could Taoist Wang Hua possibly shake off his pursuit? Otherwise, Taoist Li wouldn't have been able to escape from the pursuit of so many enlightened masters. Taoist Li's sudden appearance shocked and angered Taoist Wang Hua. Flustered and exasperated, he hastily shouted, "Li, don't go too far. This is our human cultivator's territory." Taoist Wang Hua's intention was to remind Wang Yishan and the others to hide well and not be caught in the crossfire of the battle between the two enlightened masters. Wang Yishan and the Crystal Palace cultivators were obviously aware of this. However, at this moment, Lu Ping's heart was burning with anxiety. He didn't have the mood to hide. No matter which of the two enlightened masters won, he would still die. Only by taking advantage of the two enlightened masters' battle and not paying attention to anything else could he possibly escape. Outside the small island, the two core-forging enlightened masters had already begun their battle. The deafening roar of spells caused everyone in the land of 100 flowers to turn deathly pale. They were deeply afraid that the battle between the two enlightened masters would affect them. Lu Ping's Qinghan sword struck out again and again, continuously attacking the 5 enlightened masters. When he used the stone-piercing sky sword technique, he wanted to press forward with an indomitable will and the intent of death. Lu Ping supported the cloudy sky above his protective aura and forcibly opened a path through the encirclement of the 5 enlightened masters. Wang Yishan and the others silently cursed Lu Ping for not wanting to live and rushing to his death. If they fought here and caused spiritual energy fluctuations, it would be difficult to attract the attention of the two enlightened masters fighting outside. When they saw Lu Ping's desperate stance, they all stepped aside, allowing Lu Ping to rush out. "If you want to die, don't bring us along." When Lu Ping saw that Wang Yishan and the others were no longer obstructing him, he immediately ran towards the cave entrance. He hoped that the spirit concealment technique and the mirage robe would be able to conceal his aura and not attract Master Li's attention. Lu Ping turned around the narrow crack and exited the stone slope. The battle between the two enlightened masters had already reached its climax. The spiritual pressure of a core-forging cultivator wreaked havoc in all directions, and the aftermath of their battle caused the forest on this nameless island to be broken, uprooted, torn, and incinerated in a variety of ways. Lu Ping turned around and forcibly lifted the 2 stone slabs at the mouth of the crack from the stone slope. After placing them into his storage ring, he turned and ran. Immediately, 2 strands of divine sense swiftly wrapped around Lu Ping. "Good. I've worn out iron shoes in fruitless search, but by chance I didn't even need to look for it. We really are enemies on a narrow road." A strand of divine sense whispered into Lu Ping's ear. It was Master Li's voice. Lu Ping's heart turned cold, and he thought to himself, "Not good." A majestic sword chi suddenly separated itself from the vortex of the battle between the two enlightened masters and rushed towards Lu Ping. The dense sword chi contained a tyrannical aura that urgently needed to be vented. Chapter 238. By now, Lu Ping had no time to think about how Taoist Master Li had discovered his identity. A majestic sword light was already slashing towards Lu Ping's head. Lu Ping had no choice but to stop and focus his attention to defend himself. That damn divine sense lock. Lu Ping had nowhere to hide. You've gone too far. An angry roar came from Taoist Master Wang Hua. Evidently, Taoist Master Jin Li had the time to deal with a blood condensation cultivator while fighting him. Taoist Master Wang Hua clearly felt that he was being looked down upon. In the chaotic skies above the island, yet another ring of fire appeared and wrapped itself around Taoist Master Jin Li's enormous sword chi. The sword chi was like prey that had been coiled around by a python. It suddenly broke apart and transformed into 1296 sword lights. Like a swarm of bees, they stabbed towards Lu Ping. Unexpectedly, Taoist Master Jin Li's swordsmanship had improved in the past 2 years. He had already reached the highest level of complex training of the sword. From that majestic sword light, it could be seen that Taoist Master Jin Li had even reached a higher level of unity of the sword. However, Taoist Master Wang Hua had used the ring of fire to shatter the sword light. Faced with the overwhelming sword light, Lu Ping raised the Qinghan sword in the air and used the raging waves beating the shore technique. The Qinghan sword was divided into 324 sword lights, with 81 sword lights taking the lead. With difficulty, they arranged themselves into the 9 palaces formation. A total of 9 sword formations surrounded Lu Ping. The 2 sword arts collided with a loud rumble, filling the sky with sword lights. The ear-piercing sound of metal clashing was enough to make a cultivator's teeth ache and tongue swell. Lu Ping's 9 sword formations were instantly shattered. The Qinghan sword wailed and flew back into Lu Ping's hand. Although Lu Ping had neutralized more than 200 sword lights, Taoist Master Jin Li's sword arts did not slow down in the slightest. Lu Ping flew backward with all his might. Cloudy sky could no longer bear the heavy burden. The meteorite vital shield of myriad poisons was broken at the sound of it, and the torrent of sword techniques was finally reduced to half. It looked like it was about to hit Lu Ping. Right at this moment, a foot-long pestle suddenly flew out from Lu Ping's hand. It expanded into a 100-feet-long pestle in the sky and smashed towards the rest of the torrent of sword lights. This time, it was Venerable Wang Hua. Clearly, Lu Ping's ability to use treasures had surprised him. Once again, sword lights splashed everywhere. Only about 200 sword lights were left in the torrent of sword techniques. However, these 200 flying swords had become magic treasures. They were the psychic sword lights released by a core-forging Taoist master. At this time, Lu Ping had no time to use his magic treasure again. A stream of water rushed out of the crystal alms bowl, forming a whirlpool in front of Lu Ping. However, it only managed to dissolve 36 sword lights before it was crushed. Lu Ping calmly responded. With a wave of his hand, he tossed out a dozen or so low-grade magic treasures. Amidst a cacophony of clanking sounds, several dozen sword lights were smashed to pieces. However, these dozen or so magic treasures were riddled with scars and could no longer be used. The remaining 100 or so sword lights finally crushed Lu Ping into pieces. However, what splashed out wasn't blood, but water. Art of crossing the sea and heaven? Lu Ping used a waterman to deceive several dozen sword lights, once again buying himself some time. The remaining sword lights were no longer a concern. He summoned the Qinghan sword with great difficulty, and his protective chi of vigor was once again propped up, even though its original golden color had somewhat dimmed. Lu Ping secretly placed the protective talisman treasure in his left hand, which still had 2 uses left, back into his storage ring. Then, he reached out to recall the Qinghan sword, turned around, and fled towards the outside of the nameless island. Taoist Master Jin Li wanted to stop him again, but unexpectedly, Taoist Master Wang Hua had already anticipated this. He suddenly increased the intensity of his counterattack, causing Taoist Master Jin Li to be flustered. Taoist Master Jin Li had no choice but to let Lu Ping leave. Lu Ping didn't know why Taoist Master Wang Hua would help him resist Taoist Master Jin Li. However, after thinking about it for a moment, he immediately understood. Taoist Master Wang Hua probably thought that he was a member of the Crystal Palace. In reality, this was indeed the case. In addition, Taoist Master Wang Hua was in the middle of a battle and didn't have time to think about it. He also didn't know any cultivators from the Crystal Palace. He only knew that his nephew and a cultivator from the Crystal Palace had already arrived on the island, so he could only hope for the best. If a cultivator from the Crystal Palace died here, it would be difficult for the Wang family to explain themselves. If that person happened to be a proud disciple of Great Master Kuan Shan, then not only would the Wang family's plan to rely on the Crystal Palace fall through, they might even become enemies with the Crystal Palace. Taoist Master Wang Hua didn't dare to gamble. Especially after Lu Ping blocked Taoist Master Jin Li's sword, Taoist Master Wang Hua was even more certain that Lu Ping was a disciple of the Crystal Palace. This was because only a super sect like the Crystal Palace could cultivate a blood condensation cultivator who could survive an all-out attack from a core forging master. Thus, when Taoist Master Jinli was about to attack again, Taoist Master Wang Hua used all his strength to counterattack and stall Taoist Master Jinli. At this moment, Lu Ping was laughing inwardly, but he didn't slow down. He knew that he couldn't hide this matter for long. Thus, after escaping from the island, he dove into the sea. The sea water had a certain effect on divine sense. Lu Ping directed 3 streams of water to bind Samling's body. Then, he and Samling launched the water escape technique together. In an instant, the 3 snakes and 1 person disappeared without a trace. Under a coral reef a few miles away from the small island, Lu Ping quietly floated up from the seabed. He cast the Art of Deceiving the Heavens and Sea Traversing Art, modified by the Art of Deceiving the Heavens and Sea Traversing Art. Then, he watched from afar as the 2 core forging enlightened masters fought above the small island. With this kind of momentum, it wouldn't be long before the other enlightened masters were attracted to this place. It seemed that he shouldn't stay here for long. Just as Lu Ping was about to return to his own Soundwave Island, he saw a fiery streak of light suddenly fly over from the west of the island. The streak of light charged straight into the middle of the battle above the small path. Another enlightened master had arrived. Taoist Master Jinli was doomed. Lu Ping naturally knew what it meant for a demon enlightened master to appear in an area controlled by human cultivators. Just as Lu Ping was about to turn around and ride his magic cloud to leave, he saw a palm leaf fan suddenly fly out from the chaotic battle above the island. It flipped twice, and the palm leaf fan expanded to the size of a screen. It fiercely fanned towards Taoist Master Jin Li's location. A bright yellow flame rushed over, followed by Taoist Master Jin Li's furious roar. This was a spiritual flame of heaven and earth. Lu Ping looked at the bright yellow flame on the horizon. Not daring to linger any longer, he quickly flew towards the outskirts of the secret realm. Lu Ping stealthily moved forward. Although he had slowed down his speed, he was still able to silently pass through the middle region of the secret realm, arriving at the boundary between the middle region and the outskirts. There was a small island here, Sunrise Island, one of the 27 islands under the control of the 3 Family Alliance. There were a dozen or so blood condensation cultivators gathered on this island, forming their own force. Their leader was only at the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm, but he had 5 sworn brothers at the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm. With the 6 brothers working together, no other forces dared to rashly provoke them. Now that he was out of the range of the 3 Family Alliance's control, Lu Ping no longer had to worry about being discovered by the 3 Family Alliance's cultivators. It pounced towards Taoist Master Jin Li, fiercely shouting, "Then you can die!" If they didn't strike first now, when would they? At this moment, the 2 of them were suppressing a nameless fire in their hearts. Taoist Master Jin Li didn't need to be mentioned, but Lu Ping was also enraged by the fact that his luck was so bad. Lu Ping knew that it was useless to say anything else. In a moment of life and death, he had no choice but to fight with his life on the line. Taoist Master Jin Li disdainfully looked at the incoming flood dragon and sneered, "Today, I will let you know the fundamental difference between a core forging cultivator and a blood condensation cultivator. An injured enlightened master is still an enlightened master. He will never be defeated by an ant like you." The flying sword in Taoist Master Jin Li's hand moved, and with a single strike, he beheaded Lu Ping's flood dragon. He said, "This enlightened master has been dormant in the Eastern Sea for 2 years, recuperating from my injuries and practicing the sword. Although my cultivation hasn't increased, my swordsmanship has reached the perfection stage of training the sword into complexity. I am only one step away from achieving true training the sword as one. Today, I will show you what true swordsmanship is. Chapter 239. The aura of a core forging enlightened Master Sword to the sky, but Lu Ping's divine sense was keenly aware of Master Jin Li's weakness. It seemed that after battling with two core forging enlightened masters, Master Jin Li had indeed sustained serious injuries. Even his divine sense was unable to conceal his weakness. Over 1,000 golden sword lights flickered under the setting sun. This time, Master Jin Li did not forcibly condense the sword lights. Instead, he directed this torrent of sword lights to bombard Lu Ping. Lu Ping used the Qing Han sword to block with all his might. At the same time, he flashed the jade talisman in his palm. 3 halos suddenly wrapped around Lu Ping's body. The sword lights that had broken through the Qing Han sword's interception were immediately blocked by these 3 halos. However, Lu Ping was still forced back several dozen feet by this tremendous force, leaving a long white mark on the surface of the sea. Master Jin Li took a step forward and pointed at the flying sword in front of him. Immediately, the flying sword split into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8, and in the blink of an eye, over 1,000 sword lights once again transformed into a giant golden carp in the air. It shook its head and wagged its tail, moving its mouth and cheeks. Its entire body sparkled with a golden light, exuding a spirit. Compared to the one Lu Ping had seen in the 7-star skies, it was many times more lifelike. The giant golden carp leapt into the sea and disappeared without a trace. Lu Ping's expression was solemn. The Qing Han sword once again transformed into a horned sword flood dragon. With a soundless cry, it also dove headfirst into the water. In an instant, the seawater between the two of them surged with monstrous waves. In the blink of an eye, the outcome of the battle was decided. The Qing Han sword emerged from the surface of the sea, losing much of its spiritual light. A koi riddled with scars jumped out of the sea and pounced towards Lu Ping. However, a large jade pestle suddenly appeared above its head. With a loud clanging sound, the koi seemed to have been knocked unconscious. It fell dizzily into the sea, unable to maintain its carp's body any longer and disintegrated. However, the carp's spine was controlled by the flying sword. The flying sword flew back into Master Jin Li's hand, and the pestle was knocked into the air by the carp. It didn't gain the slightest advantage. Taoist Master Jin Li snorted inwardly and said, "I'd like to see how much magic power you have left to use a transcendent artifact." Lu Ping was not to be outdone and retorted sarcastically, "How much true essence is left in your body?" Taoist Master Jin Li coldly said, "It's enough to kill you." Just as he finished speaking, dozens of flags flew out from Taoist Master Jin Li's hands, descending in all directions towards Taoist Master Jin Li and Lu Ping. Lu Ping's heart trembled. How could he dare to let these flags fall? Just as he raised his azure sword, Taoist Master Jin Li's flying sword came to entangle it. The azure sword wasn't a match, so it could only hide in all directions, not daring to block its edge. Just as the flag was about to fall, a crystal bowl suddenly appeared above Lu Ping's head. As the crystal bowl spun above Lu Ping's head, the surrounding seawater seemed to be affected. Suddenly, dozens of hands formed by seawater reached out from the surface of the sea and grabbed at the falling flag. Taoist Master Jin Li coldly snorted and sneered, "You dare to control water in front of this Taoist master? Today, I will let you know who is the true ancestor of water control in the ocean." Taoist Master Jin Li stamped his foot on the surface of the water, and the hand that was grabbing at the flag immediately dissolved back into seawater. Lu Ping's expression changed. The dozens of flags had already fallen onto the surface of the sea, and the entire world suddenly turned dark. A large amount of water mist gathered above the two from all directions, and a fierce wind surged up from the surface of the sea, causing the seawater to violently roil. In a short moment, lightning flashed, thunder rolled, and a violent storm raged. Lu Ping immediately discovered that he could no longer distinguish directions within this array. He had lost sight of Taoist Master Jin Li's figure, and his divine sense had also been greatly weakened. He could only barely see 30 to 50 zhang around himself. A faint whistling sound could be heard. Lu Ping's divine sense only had enough time to determine the general direction of the incoming danger, but he was unable to determine its specific location. Lu Ping could only use the cloudy sky to block behind him. A bright light suddenly appeared in the darkness. Even with the cloudy sky blocking it, under the attack of the flying sword, one of the talisman treasure halos around Lu Ping's body was shattered. The faint whistling sound could be heard once more. This time, Lu Ping was finally able to pinpoint the flying sword's exact location. The Qinghan sword sprayed out a wall of swords in front of him, but it was easily pierced through by the other flying sword. Ding! With the combined efforts of the Qinghan sword and the cloudy sky, the second halo around Lu Ping's body was finally able to block the flying sword's piercing attack. However, the halo that was originally flashing with spiritual light had now become dim and lightless. Your divine sense is actually able to determine the location of my flying sword? How is this possible? Lu Ping pointed in the direction of the sound. In the darkness, a black object suddenly grew larger and began to descend in the direction of the sound. There was a loud explosion, followed by a massive splash. Taoist Master Jin Li's mocking voice could be heard once more. It's useless. Within this great array, there is no way for you to determine my location. Humph! If it weren't for the fact that this Taoist master's vitality has been greatly damaged and several of my treasures have been destroyed in battle, I wouldn't even need this array. Just as Taoist Master Jin Li was feeling pleased with himself and having forced Lu Ping into a sorry state, 12 five-colored lights suddenly lit up in the darkness. The lights grew brighter and brighter, and gradually, the 12 lights resonated with each other, interweaving in the night sky to form a strange scene. What is this? Taoist Master Jin Li attacked with his flying sword, but the 12 inexplicably tyrannical forces interweaved together, causing his magic sword to deviate. See calming. In the darkness, Lu Ping's deep and low voice resounded, carrying with it a calm and composed aura. Taoist Master Jin Li immediately retracted his insolence. As soon as Lu Ping's voice fell, the 12 five-colored lights inexplicably paused, and the originally turbulent sea suddenly fell silent. Taoist Master Jin Li felt an unstoppable force suddenly invade the array he had laid down, causing the array to suddenly be unable to operate smoothly. Taoist Master Jin Li was startled, knowing that this was Lu Ping trying to break the array. He immediately increased the input of his true essence and divine sense into the array, doing his utmost to maintain its operation. However, this force was truly tyrannical, directly freezing the operation of the array. Immediately afterwards, there was the sound of tearing silk. Taoist Master Jin Li was alarmed. He knew that one of the array flags he had used to lay down the array had been torn apart by this tyrannical force. However, the tearing of this array flag was only the beginning. Following that, the sound of array flags shattering rang out in succession. The fierce winds had long since died down, and the thunder and lightning had also ceased. The dark clouds that covered the sky seemed to have been frightened, and suddenly disappeared without a trace. The evening scenery once again occupied this part of the world, with dozens of broken flags floating on the sea's surface, rippling along with the waves. At this time, Taoist Master Jin Li was surrounded by 12 massive glowing pearls. With a bewildered expression, he asked, "These are the 12 spirit pearls from the 7 Stars Hall. How did they end up in your hands? To think that this Taoist Master's Immortal's Cave was destroyed by your hands." Lu Ping stuffed a 3-transformation spirit pill into his mouth, his expression grave and stern. He pointed a finger at the 12 gentian pearls surrounding Taoist Master Jin Li and shouted in a low voice, "Striking God." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.